Wake up each day with clearer control over how you feel, and you will change what you do and what you get from life. This audiobook shows simple daily habits you can use right now to notice your emotions, calm your body, and choose your responses instead of reacting automatically. You will hear straightforward steps for paying attention to feelings, practicing breathing that lowers tension, thinking honestly about your patterns, and speaking to yourself in ways that help rather than hurt. Picture how your body shifts when stress eases, a tight jaw loosens your shoulders, and your breathing becomes steady. Imagine talking with someone and really hearing them because you made a small change in how you listen. These are not abstract ideas, they are habits you can practice in 5 minutes at a time and build into lasting change. Each chapter gives clear actions you can try today and habits to repeat until they feel natural. This guide is written like a friend who gives practical advice and keeps you accountable. It avoids complicated language and focuses on what works. You will learn how to set simple morning intentions, slow your reactions under pressure, strengthen your boundaries, and turn critical inner thoughts into useful guidance. You will also get tools for daily check-ins, better sleep routines, and methods to solve problems calmly so stress does not control your decisions. Stay for the whole audiobook because each habit builds on the one before it, and together they form a complete routine for emotional strength. Toward the end, you will find ways to measure progress, track changes, and keep growing long after you finish listening. Small changes repeated every day add up to real results, and you will hear exact practices that make that possible. If you want less reactivity, clearer thinking, stronger relationships, and steady energy, this collection of habits will give you step-by-step methods to get there. Try one habit tonight and notice the difference tomorrow. Keep listening to learn which daily actions will fit your life and how to turn those actions into permanent changes in how you feel and how you show up. Chapter 1. Build daily awareness of emotions and intentional responses. Most people move through their days on autopilot, reacting to situations without pausing to notice what they feel or why they feel it. This unconscious way of living creates unnecessary stress, conflict, and regret because emotions take control rather than being managed with clarity. To live with emotional intelligence is to break that automatic cycle and build the habit of awareness, where every emotion is recognized and every response is chosen rather than forced. The ability to become aware of your emotions is the foundation for all personal growth because awareness gives you the power of choice, and choice allows you to create intentional responses that align with your values rather than temporary impulses. Awareness does not mean suppressing or ignoring emotions. It means recognizing them clearly in the moment they arise. For example, when anger shows up, you acknowledge its presence without judgment. You notice where it sits in your body, how it changes your breathing, and what kind of thoughts it pushes into your mind. Instead of immediately lashing out or shutting down, you pause and observe. That pause is where emotional intelligence begins. It creates a small space between the emotion and the response, and in that space, you regain control of your behavior. This is what separates an intentional response from a reactive one. Emotions are not enemies to be defeated. They are signals that carry information about your needs, your values, and your perceptions of the world. Fear tells you there might be danger or uncertainty. Anger tells you a boundary might have been crossed. Sadness tells you something meaningful has been lost. Joy tells you that something important has been fulfilled. By paying attention to these signals instead of drowning in them, you can extract wisdom and act with purpose. A person who builds the daily habit of awareness learns to read these signals and decide how to respond in a way that serves growth rather than destruction. Consider a simple example. You are in a conversation and someone interrupts you. If you are not aware, irritation might rise instantly, and words of sharpness may leave your mouth before you think. But if you are aware, You feel the irritation. You notice the impulse to snap back, and then you pause. In that pause, you ask yourself, what is the best response here? Do I want to escalate or guide this conversation with respect? That awareness allows you to respond intentionally, perhaps by calmly asserting your point or letting the interruption pass if it is not important. The difference between these two reactions can change the outcome of the entire conversation and even the relationship itself. Building daily awareness requires consistent practice. It is not something mastered overnight. One of the most effective ways to begin is to schedule intentional moments throughout the day to check in with yourself. Ask simple questions. What am I feeling right now? Where do I feel it in my body? What triggered it? Is my response serving me or harming me? By practicing this routine regularly, awareness becomes a natural part of your thinking rather than an occasional activity. Another practice is journaling. At the end of the day, write down the emotions you experienced and the responses you gave. Reflect on whether those responses were intentional or automatic. Over time, patterns will emerge, and you will begin to see which emotions control you most often and in what circumstances. This awareness creates opportunities to prepare for similar situations in the future. For instance, if you notice that stress after work often leads you to be impatient with family members, you can create a plan to pause, breathe, and reset before walking into your home. That one change can transform the quality of your relationships. Meditation and mindfulness also play a powerful role in developing emotional awareness. By sitting quietly and observing your breath, you train your mind to notice thoughts and feelings without being swept away by them. This practice strengthens the muscle of observation, and the more you practice it, the easier it becomes to catch emotions before they dictate your actions. Even a few minutes a day can sharpen your awareness and bring clarity into moments where reactivity once ruled. Awareness is also about recognizing the language of your body. Emotions show up physically before they appear in the mind. Anger might bring heat in the chest. Anxiety might tighten the stomach. Excitement might quicken the heartbeat. By learning to notice these signals early, you can pause and choose a response before the emotion becomes overwhelming. This prevents unnecessary conflicts and helps you remain centered even in stressful situations. Building awareness also means taking responsibility. Instead of blaming others for how you feel, you recognize that emotions are your own signals to manage. Someone may trigger frustration, but the choice of how to respond is yours. This is a core principle of emotional intelligence. External events do not control your behavior, your awareness and discipline do. When you practice ownership of your emotions, you stop giving away power and start living with strength and intention. A practical exercise you can use daily is the pause and label method. Whenever a strong emotion arises, stop for a moment and name it. Say to yourself, "This is anger," or "This is sadness," or "This is joy." Naming the emotion reduces its intensity because it shifts your brain from the emotional center to the rational center. Once named, you can decide how to respond. This simple act of labeling creates distance between you and the emotion, giving you room to choose rather than react. Another step is to practice intentional breathing when emotions rise. A slow, deep breath in through the nose, held for a few seconds and released gently, calms the nervous system. This physical act reduces the intensity of emotions and allows the mind to think more clearly. With regular practice, this becomes a habit, and in moments of stress, your body will naturally turn to the breath rather than impulsive reaction. Awareness must also extend to the small, unnoticed emotions that shape daily behavior. Many people only focus on strong emotions like anger or fear, but subtle feelings such as boredom, irritation, or restlessness also influence actions. For example, boredom might push you to eat when you are not hungry, or irritation might cause you to dismiss someone without realizing it. By paying attention to these smaller emotions, you prevent small negative habits from becoming bigger patterns that damage your life. Building intentional responses also requires clarity of values. If you do not know what you stand for, your responses will always be inconsistent. Awareness alone is not enough. You must also align responses with principles. When you know your values, such as respect, honesty, or patience, you can filter every response through them. For instance, if respect is a value, then even when anger rises, you choose a response that honors respect rather than reaction. This alignment builds integrity and self-respect, which in turn strengthens relationships and trust. Consider how powerful this becomes in professional life. In workplaces, emotions run high, deadlines, disagreements, competition. Without awareness, people often react in ways that damage their reputation or relationships. But a person who practices awareness notices stress rising during a meeting, pauses, breathes, and then speaks with clarity and composure. That single intentional choice not only preserves dignity, but also builds influence and trust among colleagues. Emotional intelligence in action becomes visible leadership. Awareness is not limited to negative emotions. It also enhances the experience of positive emotions. By becoming aware of joy, gratitude, or love in the moment, you fully experience them rather than rushing past them. This deepens satisfaction and improves overall well-being. For example, instead of quickly moving past a compliment, you pause, feel the warmth of appreciation, and allow yourself to absorb it. This practice builds a more balanced and fulfilling emotional life. It is important to remember that awareness is not about perfection. Even with practice, moments of reactivity will still occur. The key is to notice them, learn from them, and commit to improvement. Every time you catch yourself slipping into old habits, you are already practicing awareness. Progress is built in small steps repeated daily, not in flawless performance. Over time, the number of intentional responses will grow, and your life will reflect greater peace, clarity, and purpose. Daily awareness also creates resilience. Life will always present challenges, and emotions will always arise. But the person who practices awareness is not easily shaken. They recognize emotions, understand their messages, and respond with wisdom. This resilience builds confidence because you trust yourself to handle whatever comes. You no longer fear emotions or avoid situations because you know you can face them with clarity. That confidence spills into every area of life, empowering you to take on bigger goals and responsibilities without being held back by fear or doubt. To integrate awareness into your routine, begin with small, consistent practices. In the morning, before the rush of the day, take 1 minute to ask, how do I feel right now? What do I want to bring into today? During the day, set a reminder on your phone to pause and check in with your emotions. At night, reflect for a few minutes on your emotional experiences. These small practices create a structure that trains your mind to remain aware even in busy or stressful times. Awareness is also strengthened by your environment. Surround yourself with people who encourage reflection and growth rather than constant reaction. Engage in conversations where emotions are discussed openly and honestly. Choose environments that promote calmness and clarity rather than chaos. The more you place yourself in supportive surroundings, the easier it becomes to maintain awareness and choose intentional responses. The benefits of this habit extend far beyond personal peace. When you live with emotional awareness, you influence others positively. People around you feel respected, understood, and safe because you respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. This strengthens trust and creates healthier connections, whether in family, friendships, or work. You become a model of composure, someone others rely on during challenges. This influence is one of the most valuable results of emotional intelligence because it multiplies your impact on the world. The journey to build daily awareness of emotions and intentional responses is the beginning of mastering yourself. It is the discipline of paying attention to the signals within and choosing actions that align with your highest values. It transforms relationships, strengthens resilience, and creates inner peace. While the practice requires patience and commitment, the rewards are lifelong. Each day becomes an opportunity to practice awareness, to pause before reacting, and to live with purpose. In time, this habit shifts the entire quality of your life. Instead of feeling like a victim of emotions, you become the guide of your own behavior. Instead of reacting in ways you later regret, you respond with integrity. Instead of living unconsciously, you live deliberately. This is the power of emotional intelligence at its core, the ability to notice, the discipline to pause, and the strength to respond with intention. When you commit to building this awareness daily, you unlock the first step toward lasting change, proving that by mastering your habits, you truly can change your life. Chapter 2. Practice mindful breathing to calm stress and regain focus. Your breath is the most powerful tool you carry with you every single moment, and when you learn to use it with awareness, you gain the ability to calm stress, sharpen focus, and guide your mind toward clarity. Most people overlook this simple gift, treating breathing as something automatic that requires no attention, yet within it lies the fastest path to regaining control in moments of pressure. When stress builds and the mind feels scattered, deliberate breathing restores balance, sending a signal to both the body and brain that you are safe, steady, and ready to respond with strength. Stress thrives in the absence of control. It speeds up the heart, shortens the breath, and clouds judgment. When you do nothing about it, stress begins to dictate your choices and weakens your ability to perform with focus. But when you use mindful breathing, you interrupt this cycle. A slow, intentional breath communicates to your nervous system that the threat is manageable, easing tension in your muscles and giving your mind the space it needs to think clearly. This simple act of breathing with intention becomes a discipline that anyone can practice anywhere, at any time, with immediate results. Mindful breathing does not require special equipment, a quiet room, or hours of meditation. It only asks for presence. For example, if you notice your thoughts racing before an important conversation, you can bring attention to your breath and draw in a slow inhale through your nose. Hold it gently for a moment, then release it smoothly through your mouth. Do this for several cycles, and you will feel your pulse settle, your shoulders relax, and your focus sharpen. What might have been a scattered, reactive conversation now becomes calm and intentional because you gave yourself the space to regain composure through breathing. The power of mindful breathing lies in how it influences both body and mind. Physiologically, deep breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which slows down the heart rate and lowers blood pressure. Psychologically, it shifts your attention away from distractions and anchors you in the present. Instead of being pulled into memories of the past or worries about the future, you ground yourself in this very moment. With practice, this grounding effect strengthens your ability to stay composed no matter what life throws at you. One way to bring mindful breathing into your daily routine is to create small pauses throughout the day. When you wake up, instead of immediately rushing to tasks, take 3 slow, deep breaths to set the tone for calmness. During work, When tension builds, pause and give yourself 1 minute to focus entirely on your breathing. Before sleep, use mindful breathing to release the weight of the day and prepare your mind for rest. These moments may seem small, but their impact grows over time, training your mind to remain balanced and focused. Mindful breathing is especially powerful in moments of conflict. Anger or frustration often causes people to raise their voices or say things they later regret. By taking even one slow breath before responding, you give yourself the chance to choose a wiser action. That pause is not weakness, it is strength, because it shows you are in control of your state rather than being controlled by emotion. Over time, this habit reduces unnecessary conflict and helps you maintain respect in relationships, even during disagreement. Another area where mindful breathing transforms your life is in decision-making. Stress clouds judgment and pushes people toward rushed choices, but breathing clears the fog. When faced with an important decision, take a few minutes to breathe mindfully. As your body relaxes, your mind opens, allowing you to weigh options with greater clarity. Many poor choices are made in a state of tension, and many wise choices are made after breathing creates calm. This alone can change the direction of your life, because decisions shape your future. Practical exercises can help you develop this habit more deeply. One effective technique is box breathing, where you inhale for a count of 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and pause again for 4. Repeat this cycle for a few minutes, and notice how your body steadies and your mind feels clearer. Another method is the 4-7-8 technique, where you inhale through your nose for 4 seconds, hold your breath for 7 seconds, and exhale slowly for 8 seconds. This lengthened exhalation has a powerful calming effect, making it particularly useful for releasing anxiety before sleep or during stressful moments. Mindful breathing is also about awareness of quality, not just rhythm. Most people breathe shallowly, pulling air only into the chest. This type of breathing keeps the body in a state of alertness, which fuels stress. By shifting to diaphragmatic breathing, drawing air deeply into the belly, you oxygenate the body more fully and create deeper relaxation. You can practice this by placing one hand on your chest and one on your abdomen, ensuring the lower hand rises more than the upper hand with each breath. Over time, this deeper breathing becomes natural, and you carry calmness with you throughout the day. The discipline of mindful breathing requires consistency. At first, you may forget to practice in stressful situations because the mind automatically reacts, but with repetition, breathing becomes your instinctive response to stress rather than panic or reactivity. The key is to practice not only in moments of crisis, but also in moments of peace. By training yourself daily, you prepare for the moments when you need it most. What makes mindful breathing transformative is that it teaches you presence. Stress often comes from being pulled away from the moment, dwelling on past mistakes or anticipating future challenges. Breathing anchors you in the now, reminding you that this is the only moment you can act in. When you master this presence, you regain freedom from unnecessary worry, because you no longer live scattered between yesterday and tomorrow. It is also important to recognize that mindful breathing is not an escape. It does not remove challenges from life, but it equips you to face them with strength. When you breathe with awareness, you give yourself the clarity to act wisely rather than impulsively. This makes you more effective, not less. You can still work hard, lead strongly, and pursue your goals, but you do so from a place of calm focus rather than frantic energy. Over time, mindful breathing changes your relationship with stress entirely. Instead of viewing stress as something to fear, you see it as a signal to pause and breathe. Each stressful moment becomes an opportunity to practice composure, and each practice strengthens your emotional intelligence. This shift turns stress from an enemy into a teacher, guiding you toward greater mastery of yourself. When combined with other emotional intelligence habits, mindful breathing becomes a foundation for resilience. Awareness helps you recognize what you feel, breathing helps you regulate it, and intentional responses help you live with integrity. Together, these practices build a life of balance, purpose, and strength. But mindful breathing holds a unique place because it gives you immediate control in any situation. No matter where you are or what you face, your breath is always with you, ready to bring you back to calmness and focus. In a world filled with distractions and pressures, the ability to pause and breathe is a rare and valuable strength. Those who practice it consistently stand out because they remain steady when others lose control. They listen more deeply, think more clearly, and act with greater intention. This is not a gift given to a few. It is a skill anyone can build with practice. The only requirement is the decision to use your breath as a tool rather than a background process. Your life does not improve by accident. It improves by discipline. Mindful breathing is one of the simplest yet most powerful disciplines you can bring into your days. It costs nothing, it takes little time, yet it delivers profound results. With every deliberate breath, you reclaim control from stress, sharpen your focus, and strengthen your ability to live with intention. Over time, this habit becomes part of who you are, shaping a calmer, clearer, and more resilient version of yourself. So when stress rises and your mind begins to scatter, remember that power is already within you. Draw in a deep breath, release it with awareness, and return to the present. This single act can change how you think, how you act, and how you live. By practicing mindful breathing every day, you not only calm stress and regain focus, you build the foundation of a life directed by clarity, strength, and peace. Chapter 3. Develop honest self-reflection to identify limiting emotional patterns. The greatest breakthroughs in life come when you find the courage to look within and see yourself with honesty, because without self-reflection, you repeat the same patterns that limit your growth. Every person carries emotional habits that shape how they think, respond, and connect with others. Yet most people remain blind to these patterns because they avoid uncomfortable truths. Honest self-reflection is not about judging yourself harshly, but about shining a light on the hidden areas of your emotional life so you can see what strengthens you and what holds you back. When you commit to this practice, you gain the ability to recognize the limiting patterns that quietly direct your choices, and you unlock the power to change them. The process begins with awareness of repeated emotional experiences. Think about the moments where you often feel stuck. Maybe it is constant frustration in conversations, repeated feelings of inadequacy at work, or a tendency to withdraw when things become difficult. These are not random occurrences. They are patterns rooted in emotions that you have not fully examined. By reflecting honestly, you identify the triggers, the reactions, and the beliefs that fuel these emotions. This is where change starts. Because once you see the pattern clearly, it can no longer control you in the same way. Honest self-reflection requires discipline because it is uncomfortable to admit where you fall short. Many people prefer to blame circumstances or others instead of looking at their own contribution. But when you face your truth directly, you take responsibility for your growth. For example, if you notice that you become defensive whenever someone gives feedback, reflection helps you ask why. Perhaps it is not the feedback itself, but an old belief that criticism equals rejection. By identifying this belief, you create the possibility of responding differently in the future. Without reflection, you remain trapped in the same cycle of defensiveness. The key to effective self-reflection is asking the right questions. Instead of asking, "Why does this always happen to me?" which keeps you stuck in victim thinking, Ask questions that bring clarity. What emotion did I feel in that moment? What thought was attached to it? What action did I choose, and did it serve me? These questions transform vague experiences into specific insights. Over time, this questioning sharpens your ability to spot limiting patterns quickly, sometimes even while they are happening. A practical way to strengthen this habit is through daily reflection exercises. At the end of each day, take 10 minutes to review emotional experiences. Write down the strongest emotions you felt, what triggered them, and how you responded. Then ask yourself if that response aligned with your values or if it was driven by old habits. This routine may feel simple, but it uncovers patterns that you would otherwise miss. Over weeks and months, you begin to see the emotional story of your life laid out in front of you. This clarity gives you the power to rewrite it. Another approach is to reflect after specific situations that leave you unsettled. For example, if you argued with a friend or coworker, resist the urge to move on without reflection. Ask yourself what emotion drove your words. Was it anger, fear, or insecurity? What was the deeper need behind that emotion? Perhaps the anger was really about a desire to be respected, or the insecurity was about not feeling heard. By uncovering the deeper layers, you learn about yourself in ways that surface-level thinking never reveals. Self-reflection also involves noticing patterns over time. A single event may not tell you much, but repeated experiences point to deeper truths. If you notice that you consistently feel unappreciated in different settings, the reflection may show you that the real issue is not always others failing to appreciate you, but your own difficulty in recognizing your worth. Without honest reflection, this pattern might follow you for years, damaging relationships and weakening confidence. With reflection, you can begin to address the root cause and free yourself from the cycle. It is important to approach reflection with compassion. Honest does not mean harsh. If you punish yourself for every mistake, you will avoid reflection altogether. The purpose is growth, not self-attack. Treat yourself as a student learning to understand, rather than as a judge handing down punishment. This attitude makes it easier to face uncomfortable truths because you know they are not final verdicts, but starting points for transformation. One powerful tool in reflection is identifying limiting beliefs. These are the silent assumptions that drive your emotional reactions. Beliefs such as, "I am not good enough," "people always let me down," or "I must be perfect to be loved," create emotional patterns that hold you back. Reflection allows you to recognize when these beliefs are shaping your behavior. Once you see them, you can challenge them. Ask yourself if the belief is truly based on evidence or if it is simply a habit of thought. Replacing a limiting belief with an empowering one takes time, but reflection is the first step. Another way to deepen reflection is to involve others you trust. Sometimes, patterns are so ingrained that you cannot see them alone. Honest conversations with supportive people can reveal blind spots. You might not realize how often you dismiss compliments or how quickly you shut down in disagreement until someone points it out. This kind of feedback can be uncomfortable, but when received with openness, it becomes one of the most valuable forms of reflection. Reflection is not limited to negative emotions. It also means noticing positive experiences and understanding what contributes to them. By reflecting on the moments when you felt confident, connected, or joyful, you learn what supports your growth and how to repeat those conditions. This balance prevents reflection from becoming only about fixing problems and instead makes it about building a stronger, more intentional life overall. Honest self-reflection also teaches humility. It reminds you that growth is a continuous process and that everyone carries patterns they must confront. Instead of striving for perfection, you focus on progress. Each time you identify a limiting pattern, and choose a new response, you strengthen your character. Over time, these small changes accumulate into profound transformation. To make this practice sustainable, connect reflection to action. Awareness without change leads to frustration, but awareness followed by intentional action creates growth. For example, if reflection shows that you often react with impatience when stressed, you can create a plan to pause and breathe before responding. If you notice a pattern of avoiding difficult conversations, you can commit to preparing and initiating one important conversation each week. Linking reflection to concrete actions ensures that insights translate into real improvements in your life. The beauty of honest self-reflection is that it builds freedom. Limiting patterns are like invisible chains, guiding your behavior without your consent. Once you recognize them, you can break free. You no longer have to repeat the same emotional cycles that drain your energy or damage your relationships. You gain the power to write a new story, one built on awareness, discipline, and intentional choices. Over time, this practice sharpens your emotional intelligence and builds resilience. Life will continue to present challenges, but instead of reacting unconsciously, you respond with wisdom drawn from self-knowledge. When you know your patterns, you are no longer surprised by them. And when you are no longer surprised, you are no longer controlled. This mastery of self becomes the foundation for confidence, peace, and strength in every area of life. Honest self-reflection is not something you do once, it is a lifelong habit. Each stage of life brings new challenges and new emotions to explore. By committing to this discipline, you ensure that you continue to grow, adapt, and refine yourself. What once held you back becomes a lesson that propels you forward. What once felt like weakness becomes the very place where strength is born. The truth is simple: you cannot change what you refuse to see. But when you look within with courage and honesty, you gain the clarity to identify the emotional patterns that no longer serve you. With that clarity, you gain the power to replace them with habits that align with who you want to become. This is the heart of personal transformation, and it begins with the daily choice to reflect honestly, learn continuously, and act intentionally. Your growth will not be measured by the absence of flaws, but by the courage to face them and the discipline to rise above them. This is how you take control of your emotions, your choices, and ultimately, your life. Chapter 4. Cultivate active listening skills to deepen every personal connection. The quality of your relationships will always mirror the quality of your attention, and nothing strengthens human connection more than the practice of active listening. In every conversation, there is an unspoken request that often goes unnoticed. The request to be seen, to be heard, to be understood without judgment. Too often, communication turns into a cycle of waiting to speak instead of choosing to listen, and the result is shallow interactions that fail to touch the depth of human experience. Active listening is not simply hearing words. It is about giving the other person the rare gift of undivided presence. When you cultivate this habit, you begin to transform not only your relationships with others, but also your understanding of yourself. The first step toward mastering active listening is recognizing how much of modern conversation is filled with distraction. People check their phones, let their minds wander, or silently prepare their next argument while someone else is speaking. True listening requires you to set aside your own agenda, silence the internal chatter, and focus completely on the speaker. This level of focus sends a powerful message: you matter, your words carry weight, and I am here with you fully. When others feel this kind of attention, they respond with openness and trust, because they sense they are in the presence of someone who genuinely values them. Active listening also means noticing more than words. Emotions often live beneath the surface of language, and the tone of voice, the pauses, the body language, and even the silences tell a deeper story. When you pay attention to these subtleties, you uncover the true meaning behind what is being said. For example, someone might say they are fine, but their tightened jaw or distant gaze reveals otherwise. By tuning into these cues, you acknowledge the full message, not just the spoken one. This awareness allows you to respond in ways that are more compassionate, thoughtful, and aligned with the other person's reality. Another powerful aspect of active listening is learning to hold space without rushing to fix or solve. Many people listen with the intent of offering solutions, advice, or reassurance before the speaker has fully expressed themselves. But sometimes, what the other person needs most is not an answer, but an empathetic presence. When you resist the urge to interrupt with your perspective, you create a safe environment for deeper sharing. In these moments, silence becomes as valuable as words, because it shows patience and respect for the speaker's process. Active listening is also strengthened by reflection. When you paraphrase or summarize what someone has shared, it demonstrates that you not only heard their words, but also absorbed their meaning. A simple phrase like, "What I hear you saying is," or "It sounds like you're feeling," validates their experience. This does not mean you always have to agree. Validation is not about agreement, but about acknowledgement. By reflecting back, you show that their emotions are legitimate and important, and this recognition strengthens trust. Practicing active listening requires humility. It means admitting that in a conversation, your role is not always to dominate or prove a point, but to understand. Too many conflicts arise not from genuine disagreement, but from a lack of effort to truly hear the other side. When you listen with humility, you set aside the need to be right and instead focus on learning. This shift opens the door to compromise, empathy, and solutions that honor both perspectives. The benefits of cultivating active listening extend beyond relationships with others. It also transforms your relationship with yourself. When you become skilled at listening attentively, you learn to listen inwardly with the same patience and curiosity. You begin to recognize your own emotions, your hidden fears, your unspoken desires, and your authentic values. Just as others need to be heard, so do you, and active listening teaches you how to honor your own inner voice without dismissing or ignoring it. To make active listening a daily habit, begin by setting a simple intention before each conversation. Decide that your focus will be on the other person, not on forming responses in your head. Place distractions aside, make eye contact, and engage with openness. When the person speaks, resist the urge to fill the space quickly. Instead, allow pauses to breathe, because silence often invites deeper truths. Respond with questions that encourage elaboration, such as, "Can you tell me more about that?" These questions show genuine interest and give the speaker permission to unfold their story at their own pace. Another practical step is practicing mindfulness in conversation. Notice when your attention drifts, and gently bring it back to the present moment. If you catch yourself preparing what you'll say next, remind yourself that the conversation is not about you, it is about them. By anchoring your focus in the present, you prevent assumptions and misinterpretations from distorting the dialogue. Over time, this mindfulness strengthens your ability to stay grounded and present, not only in conversations, but in every interaction you experience. One of the most transformative outcomes of active listening is its ability to dissolve misunderstandings and conflict. Many arguments escalate because people feel ignored or misunderstood. When you truly listen, you break this cycle. Even in disagreement, if the other person feels heard and respected, the intensity of conflict decreases. They may still hold their viewpoint, but they no longer feel the need to defend it aggressively, because you have given them the dignity of attention. This simple act often diffuses tension and paves the way for meaningful dialogue. Active listening also builds resilience in relationships during difficult times. When challenges arise, whether personal struggles, professional obstacles, or emotional hardships, people crave connection. If you can offer your full presence and empathetic listening, you become a source of strength for those around you. They will remember that you were not the one who offered quick solutions or distracted advice, but the one who made them feel safe, valued, and understood. These are the moments that forge lasting bonds. The practice of listening is not only about others, but about creating a culture of respect. In a world filled with noise, where people often compete to be heard, choosing to listen is an act of discipline and grace. It signals that relationships are not built on dominance or self-promotion, but on mutual understanding. Each time you choose to listen deeply, you contribute to a more compassionate environment, whether it is in your home, your workplace, or your community. Over time, active listening becomes more than a skill. It becomes a way of life. You begin to notice how much people open up when they feel genuinely heard, and how conflicts dissolve when understanding replaces assumption. You notice how your own inner clarity grows as you practice presence with others. You see how connection deepens, not through eloquent words, but through attentive silence. The truth is that every human being desires the same thing: to be acknowledged and valued. Active listening is the habit that grants this desire. It is a discipline of patience, humility, and compassion, and it has the power to transform relationships at every level. If you commit yourself to cultivating this habit daily, you will discover that the depth of your connections increases, your influence expands, and your life becomes richer with meaning. When you choose to listen actively, you are not just hearing words, you are affirming the worth of another human being. That affirmation is one of the greatest gifts you can give, and it is also one of the greatest ways to strengthen your own emotional intelligence. Listening is the doorway to empathy, understanding, and connection, and when practiced consistently, it will deepen every personal bond you hold. By making this a lifelong habit, you take a decisive step toward building a life of stronger relationships, clearer communication, and lasting fulfillment. Chapter 5. Master emotional labeling to reduce reactivity and increase clarity. Clarity begins the moment you can name what you feel, because unspoken emotions often control you more than the ones you bring into the light. When an emotion remains vague and undefined, it grows in strength, driving reactions that are impulsive and often regretted. But when you label that emotion clearly, when you can say, "This is anger," or "This is disappointment," or "This is envy," you strip it of its power to control you. The act of naming turns a swirling storm into something specific you can face with awareness, and this simple shift opens the door to calm, focus, and intentional response. Emotional labeling is more than vocabulary. It is a tool for self-mastery. Many people go through life reacting to feelings they never pause to identify. They snap in anger, withdraw in sadness, or spiral in anxiety. Yet if asked what they are experiencing, they cannot say with precision. This lack of clarity keeps them trapped in cycles of reactivity. The truth is that emotions are signals, each one carrying information about your inner state and your needs. If you do not recognize them, you miss the chance to learn from them. If you can identify them accurately, you can act with wisdom rather than impulse. The process begins with slowing down long enough to notice what arises inside. Imagine a moment of frustration at work. Without labeling, the frustration may build into irritation, then anger, and finally an outburst. But if you pause and say, "What I'm actually feeling is pressure because I don't want to fail," you move from blind reaction to insight. That label reveals the deeper emotion beneath the surface, and with that understanding, you can choose a calmer course of action. This is how labeling reduces reactivity. It interrupts the automatic chain between feeling and action. A key part of mastering emotional labeling is expanding your emotional vocabulary. Too often, people rely on only a few general labels such as happy, sad, or mad. These broad categories fail to capture the true range of human experience. There is a vast difference between irritation and rage, between disappointment and grief, between nervousness and panic. By learning to distinguish these subtleties, you gain sharper awareness. That awareness gives you leverage, because each specific emotion points toward a different need or response. Frustration may signal the need for patience, while loneliness may call for connection. Without accurate labeling, you cannot meet those needs effectively. One practical method is to pause during emotional moments and ask yourself, what exactly am I feeling right now? Is it fear or is it uncertainty? Is it sadness or is it guilt? At first, this may feel unfamiliar, but over time it sharpens your inner clarity. You can also keep an emotion journal, recording not just what happened, but how you felt in precise terms. This practice builds your ability to notice patterns, helping you see which emotions arise most often and in what contexts. With this awareness, you are no longer caught off guard by your own inner world. You recognize it and know how to navigate it. Labeling emotions also helps in communication with others. When you can state clearly, I feel disappointed because my effort wasn't acknowledged, instead of reacting with silence or anger, you make it easier for others to understand and respond to you. Vague statements like I'm upset leave others guessing, often leading to misunderstanding. Specific labels reduce confusion and invite more constructive dialogue. They allow you to express vulnerability without aggression, which builds trust and strengthens relationships. Another important element is separating the emotion from your identity. Too often, people fuse their feelings with who they are, saying things like, I am angry instead of I feel anger. That small shift in language creates distance between you and the emotion. You are not the anger. You are the person experiencing anger. This perspective gives you space to observe rather than be consumed by what you feel. It reinforces the truth that emotions are temporary states, not permanent definitions of who you are. Emotional labeling also enhances decision-making. Decisions made in the heat of undefined emotions are rarely wise, but when you can clearly articulate, I feel anxious because this choice involves uncertainty, you are better equipped to separate the emotion from the facts. You can acknowledge the feeling without letting it dictate the outcome. This approach brings clarity to moments when confusion would otherwise dominate. It helps you act from intention rather than fear, from values rather than impulses. The discipline of labeling extends even to positive emotions. It is not enough to say you feel good. Was it pride, contentment, gratitude, or joy? By naming positive states precisely, you increase your awareness of what brings fulfillment into your life. This allows you to cultivate those experiences more deliberately instead of leaving them to chance. Just as identifying negative emotions prevents destructive cycles, identifying positive ones strengthens constructive habits. Another powerful outcome of emotional labeling is the reduction of shame. Many people carry emotions they do not understand, believing that feeling anger or jealousy makes them bad. But emotions themselves are neither good nor bad. They are natural human responses. By labeling them without judgment, you learn to accept them as information rather than moral failings. This acceptance frees you from unnecessary guilt and allows you to work with your emotions instead of against them. The practice also sharpens empathy. When you become skilled at identifying your own emotions, you begin to notice them more clearly in others. You hear the difference between irritation and hurt in someone's voice, or you sense that their silence hides sadness rather than indifference. This insight allows you to respond with greater care and precision. In relationships, this depth of understanding creates bonds that are more resilient and meaningful. The habit of labeling emotions must be practiced consistently, not only in moments of crisis but in daily life. Each time you pause to name what you feel, you strengthen the neural pathways that support emotional intelligence. Over time, the pause becomes natural, and you find yourself responding with calm clarity instead of impulsive reaction. This consistency builds a foundation of self-control that serves you in every area of life: relationships, work, decision-making, and personal growth. The strength of emotional labeling lies in its simplicity. It does not require complex techniques or long processes, only the willingness to pause, notice, and name. Yet, this small discipline has profound effects, because it transforms the invisible into the visible, the unconscious into the conscious, the overwhelming into the manageable. It is a habit of awareness, and awareness is the cornerstone of mastery. When you commit to mastering emotional labeling, you commit to living with clarity rather than confusion, intention rather than impulse. You break the cycle of being ruled by unnamed forces, and instead take your place as the guide of your own inner life. You create space between stimulus and response, and in that space lies freedom. You replace reactivity with choice, and you open the path to wiser action and deeper peace. The power to master yourself begins with the power to name what stirs within you. Once you give language to your emotions, you no longer drown in them. You stand above them with awareness and strength. That awareness reduces reactivity, sharpens clarity, and deepens connection. By practicing this daily, you transform your relationship with yourself and with others. You move through life with greater steadiness, knowing that no matter what emotions arise, you have the ability to face them clearly, name them truthfully, and respond with wisdom. Chapter 6. Strengthen boundaries to protect energy and support healthy relationships. True strength is not found in how much you endure from others, but in how clearly you define the space where your peace and well-being are protected. Boundaries are not walls that isolate you, they are the lines that give shape to your life, ensuring that your energy is preserved for what truly matters. When boundaries are weak or absent, you allow others to pull from you without limit, leaving you drained, resentful, and disconnected from your own needs. But when boundaries are strong, you create balance, protect your emotional health, and build relationships that are based on respect rather than dependency or control. Many people avoid setting boundaries because they fear rejection or conflict. They worry that saying no will make them seem selfish or unkind. Yet the reality is that without boundaries, relationships become unbalanced. Giving without limits often leads to bitterness, while taking without limits creates entitlement. A healthy bond requires both freedom and respect, and boundaries provide that structure. They tell others, "This is how far I can go, and this is how I need to be treated." Without those guidelines, misunderstandings and disappointments are inevitable. Strengthening boundaries begins with knowing your own values and limits. You cannot protect your energy if you are unclear about what matters most to you. Take time to reflect on the areas of your life where you often feel overwhelmed or taken advantage of. Do you say yes when you want to say no? Do you allow conversations that leave you feeling drained? Do you continue giving even when you feel exhausted? These are signs that your boundaries need strengthening. Awareness of where your energy is being depleted is the first step toward change. Once you recognize the need, the next step is practicing direct communication. Boundaries are not effective if they are vague or implied. You cannot expect others to guess what you need or where your limits are. Expressing boundaries with clarity and calmness is essential. For example, instead of saying, "I'm busy," say, "I cannot take on another responsibility right now." Instead of tolerating constant interruptions, say, "I need uninterrupted time to focus, and I'll be available afterward." Clear language eliminates confusion and sets the standard for how you expect to be treated. It is important to understand that boundaries are not about controlling others, but about guiding your own behavior. You cannot force people to respect your boundaries, but you can decide what you will or will not accept. If someone repeatedly crosses the line, you have the choice to limit your involvement with them. This choice is not punishment, it is self-respect. The moment you realize that you are not obligated to tolerate disrespect or overextension, you begin to reclaim your power. Boundaries also apply to emotional energy, not just time or physical space. Some conversations drain your spirit because they revolve around negativity, gossip, or constant complaining. Protecting your emotional energy may mean excusing yourself from such discussions or redirecting the focus to something constructive. You are not responsible for carrying the weight of everyone's emotions. Compassion does not require self-sacrifice. By setting emotional limits, you allow yourself to care for others without losing yourself in their struggles. One of the most empowering aspects of strong boundaries is the way they transform relationships. Far from creating distance, boundaries build deeper respect. When you honor your own limits, you show others that you value yourself. This sets the tone for mutual respect, where both people feel safe and understood. In relationships without boundaries, resentment often builds silently until it erupts. In relationships with healthy boundaries, communication is open, expectations are clear, and trust grows naturally. There will always be those who resist your boundaries, especially if they benefited from your lack of them in the past. They may accuse you of being difficult or selfish when you begin to say no. This is where courage is required. Strengthening boundaries is not about pleasing everyone, it is about protecting your well-being. Each time you enforce a boundary despite pushback, you reinforce your self-worth. Over time, the people who truly respect you will adapt, and those who cannot will naturally distance themselves. Boundaries are also vital for personal growth. Without them, your time and energy are scattered, making it harder to focus on your goals. Every moment you spend on obligations that drain you is a moment stolen from your progress. When you say no to distractions, you say yes to the life you want to build. Boundaries are not just about keeping others out, they are about carving out space for your highest priorities. They are an act of discipline that ensures your growth is not compromised by the demands of others. One practical way to strengthen boundaries is through small daily choices. You do not need to start with dramatic changes. Begin by noticing when you feel resistance inside yourself. A hesitation before saying yes, a tightening in your chest during a conversation, or exhaustion after an interaction. These physical and emotional signals are indicators that a boundary is needed. Pay attention to them and respond accordingly. Over time, this practice becomes natural, and you will be able to protect your energy with confidence. Boundaries also require consistency. It is not enough to set them once, they must be maintained. If you say you cannot work late but continually accept extra tasks, your words lose meaning. People learn how to treat you by observing what you tolerate. Consistency communicates seriousness. Each time you uphold your boundary, you reinforce the standard, and others learn to adjust. This builds respect, not only from others, but also within yourself. Another dimension of boundaries is learning the difference between responsibility and over-responsibility. You are responsible for your actions, choices, and words. You are not responsible for how others react when you uphold your limits. Their disappointment or frustration belongs to them, not to you. When you internalize this truth, you free yourself from unnecessary guilt. You realize that saying no does not make you unkind. It makes you authentic. True kindness comes from giving freely, not from giving under pressure or resentment. Boundaries also protect your physical health. When you push beyond your limits to meet endless demands, your body pays the price. Fatigue, stress, and illness often follow. Respecting your boundaries is a way of respecting your body. Rest, recovery, and time for yourself are not luxuries, they are necessities. A life without boundaries eventually collapses under exhaustion, but a life with boundaries sustains energy and vitality. The practice of strengthening boundaries is ultimately about reclaiming ownership of your life. It is about saying, "My time, my energy, and my peace are valuable, and I will not allow them to be consumed carelessly." It is a declaration of self-respect that shapes every interaction. Each boundary you set is a step toward a healthier, stronger, and more intentional version of yourself. As you develop this practice, you will notice the freedom it brings. You will no longer feel trapped by obligations that drain you. You will no longer carry the weight of trying to please everyone at the expense of your own happiness. Instead, you will walk with confidence, knowing that your energy is directed toward what aligns with your values. Relationships will feel lighter because they are grounded in honesty rather than silent resentment. Your days will feel more purposeful because they are shaped by conscious choices, not endless demands. Strengthening boundaries is not an act of rejection, but an act of preservation. It is how you honor your worth, protect your energy, and create space for relationships that lift you rather than deplete you. It is how you ensure that your life is guided by intention rather than by the expectations of others. When you live with strong boundaries, you live with clarity, balance, and strength. You show the world not only how you expect to be treated, but also how you have chosen to treat yourself. This is the essence of emotional intelligence in action. The ability to direct your energy with wisdom and to build relationships that thrive on respect and authenticity. Chapter 7. Transform negative self-talk into empowering, actionable self-guidance. The voice you speak to yourself with determines whether you rise with strength or collapse under doubt, because your mind believes what it hears most often. If your inner dialogue is filled with criticism, blame, and self-defeat, you build an environment inside yourself where growth struggles to survive. But if you turn that same voice into one of encouragement, guidance, and accountability, you create a foundation where confidence and resilience thrive. The way you speak to yourself is not just background noise. It shapes your choices, directs your actions, and defines the quality of your life. Negative self-talk is one of the most common barriers to personal progress. It often appears in small moments, when you make a mistake and call yourself stupid, when you face a challenge and whisper that you are not capable, or when you compare yourself to others and declare that you are less worthy. Over time, these patterns form deep grooves in your mind, convincing you that they are truth. But these are not truths. They are habits of thought. Just as habits can be formed, they can also be replaced. The practice of transforming negative self-talk into empowering guidance is about reclaiming your inner narrative. The first step is awareness. You cannot change what you refuse to notice. Pay attention to the words that automatically rise when you face difficulty. Do you use language that tears you down or language that builds you up? When you catch yourself in the middle of a harsh inner comment, pause and ask, would I say this to someone I care about? Most often the answer is no. That realization reveals how unfairly you treat yourself compared to others. This awareness creates space for change. Once you recognize negative self-talk, the next step is reframing. Instead of saying, I always fail at this, replace it with, I haven't mastered this yet, but I am learning. Instead of I am weak, replace it with I am building strength. The words may seem small, but they shift the focus from final judgment to ongoing progress. Empowering self-talk does not ignore difficulties, it acknowledges them while directing your mind toward action and solutions. This transformation is not about false positivity, it is about honest and constructive guidance. A useful technique is to turn inner criticism into inner coaching. Imagine that the voice inside you is a mentor rather than a judge. When you stumble, a judge says, "You are a failure." A mentor says, "You fell here, so next time adjust your step." When you hesitate, a judge says, "You are too weak." A mentor says, "This is hard, but you can prepare and try again." Shifting the role of that voice creates a completely different experience of challenge. You stop being crushed by mistakes and instead use them as stepping stones. This practice also requires discipline in language. Words carry emotional weight, and the way you phrase thoughts can intensify or soften their impact. Saying, "I am a failure," defines your entire identity, while saying, "I failed at this attempt," isolates the event. The difference is powerful. The first statement limits you, the second leaves room for growth. Pay attention to absolutes like always, never, or can't. These words lock you in a prison of limitation. Replace them with phrases that invite possibility, "not yet," "in progress," or "I can improve." Language is a tool. Use it to guide yourself forward, not to trap yourself. Another strategy is to anchor self-talk in action. When negative thoughts arise, redirect them into specific steps. If your mind says, "I am not good enough," counter it with, "What can I do right now to get better?" This shift turns abstract self-criticism into tangible movement. Action dissolves doubt because it gives your energy a direction. Each small step weakens the hold of negative self-talk, replacing helplessness with momentum. It is also important to surround yourself with external input that supports this transformation. The voice inside you is influenced by the voices around you. If you constantly hear negativity from others, your own self-talk often mirrors it. Seek environments and people who speak with encouragement, honesty, and belief in growth. Read, listen, and engage with content that reinforces resilience and self-respect. Over time, these external influences reshape the tone of your inner voice. Consistency is the key to making empowering self-talk a habit. At first, it may feel forced to replace negative statements with constructive ones. Old patterns will try to pull you back, but repetition builds strength. Each time you choose a different response, you reinforce the new pathway in your mind. Eventually, the voice of criticism weakens, and the voice of guidance becomes natural. What once required effort becomes your default. Transforming self-talk does not mean silencing every doubt. Doubts may still appear, but the difference is in how you respond. Instead of accepting them as truth, you challenge them with awareness and direction. You learn to separate the passing thought from your identity. Thoughts are not commands, they are possibilities. You decide which ones to accept and which ones to release. This shift gives you authority over your mind rather than being at its mercy. The benefits of this practice extend beyond your internal world. When you speak to yourself with respect, it influences how you show up in relationships, work, and challenges. Confidence grows not from external approval, but from the steady foundation of self-support. Others notice when you carry yourself with assurance and clarity. They respond to the strength you cultivate within. Empowering self-talk creates an outward presence of resilience, making you a source of stability for those around you. Over time, the voice that once doubted you becomes the voice that drives you. Instead of saying, "You can't handle this," it says, "You have prepared and you are capable." Instead of saying, "You are not worthy," it says, "You are learning, growing, and deserving of progress." This transformation is not about perfection, It is about direction. Each word you speak to yourself is a step either toward limitation or toward empowerment. The most powerful truth is that you are always speaking to yourself, whether you realize it or not. The quality of that dialogue shapes your emotional health, your decisions, and your future. By choosing to transform negative self-talk into empowering guidance, you take control of that influence. You shift from being your own critic to being your own ally. You give yourself the strength to keep moving, even when challenges press hard. You learn to rise, not because the path is easy, but because your inner voice refuses to let you stop. This practice is a lifelong discipline. There will be days when the old voice returns, whispering discouragement. But each time you choose differently, you build resilience. You remind yourself that progress is possible and that the voice inside you is under your command. The more you practice, the clearer your inner guidance becomes, steady, constructive, and unshakable. With that voice as your companion, you can face difficulties with courage, pursue goals with persistence, and build a life guided by strength instead of fear. The transformation of self-talk is one of the greatest forms of self-mastery. It is how you reclaim the power to guide yourself through doubt, setbacks, and uncertainty. It is how you ensure that your energy is directed toward growth instead of wasted on self-destruction. By committing to this practice, you turn the most constant voice in your life into your greatest source of wisdom and encouragement. And when that happens, nothing outside of you has the power to keep you from moving forward. Chapter 8. Practice gratitude daily to reframe challenges and boost resilience. Gratitude is one of the most powerful forces you can bring into your life because it transforms the way you see yourself, the world, and the challenges you face. When you make gratitude a daily practice, you shift your attention from what is missing to what is present, from what went wrong to what is still right, from obstacles to opportunities. This shift does not erase hardship, but it changes the way you carry it. Instead of being crushed under difficulties, you begin to see how even in the toughest times, there are lessons, blessings, and hidden strengths waiting to be uncovered. Gratitude builds resilience because it gives your mind a lens that highlights what supports you rather than what weakens you. Many people misunderstand gratitude as a superficial exercise of saying thank you when things are good. True gratitude is much deeper. It is the practice of noticing the simple but profound aspects of life that you often overlook. Your breath, your ability to think, the presence of someone who cares about you, the chance to try again after failure. When you recognize these moments intentionally, you create an anchor of stability that is not shaken by temporary setbacks. Gratitude is not about ignoring struggles, it is about remembering that struggle is never the full story. The reason gratitude builds resilience is because it changes the questions you ask yourself. In difficulty, most people focus on why me or what have I lost. Gratitude shifts those questions to what can I learn and what is still available to me. That mental shift prevents despair from taking root. Instead of feeling powerless, you begin to see options. Instead of being consumed by frustration, you remember that there are still things working in your favor. This perspective gives you strength to keep moving when it would be easier to give up. One of the most effective ways to practice gratitude is to create a daily ritual. It doesn't have to be complicated. Some people keep a journal where they write down 3 things they appreciate each morning or evening. Others take a quiet moment before bed to reflect on the day and identify the highlights, no matter how small. Even saying aloud, "I am grateful for this moment," can begin to rewire your mind. The key is consistency. Gratitude is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. Over time, your mind will naturally start to notice the good without being told to look for it. Another approach is to use gratitude as a tool in the middle of challenges. When something goes wrong, pause and intentionally look for one thing you can appreciate in that situation. It might be the lesson you will learn, the support you received, or even the fact that you survived it. This doesn't erase the difficulty, but it reframes it in a way that allows you to move forward with clarity instead of bitterness. For example, losing an opportunity may spark gratitude for the chance to explore a different path you hadn't considered. Facing a health issue may create gratitude for the reminder to care more deeply for your body. These shifts change how you experience hardship, turning it into a source of strength rather than despair. Practicing gratitude daily also improves emotional stability. When you regularly acknowledge what is good, you strengthen your ability to regulate emotions. You become less reactive to stress because your mind has already built a habit of focusing on stability and abundance. Instead of being consumed by anger or frustration, you have a counterbalance that pulls you back into perspective. Gratitude softens the extremes of emotion without dulling your passion or drive. It grounds you in a balanced state where resilience can flourish. Gratitude also strengthens relationships. When you express appreciation to others, it deepens trust, connection, and mutual respect. People feel valued when you acknowledge their presence, their efforts, or even their small acts of kindness. A simple thank you spoken sincerely can change the tone of an entire relationship. Gratitude not only improves how you see others, but also how they see you. It creates a cycle of positivity where both giving and receiving appreciation multiply. This sense of connection becomes a powerful source of support during difficult times. Another powerful effect of gratitude is its ability to reduce comparison. Much of unhappiness comes from measuring your life against someone else's. Gratitude redirects your focus inward, reminding you of what is already meaningful and valuable in your own experience. Instead of obsessing over what others have, you begin to appreciate your unique journey. This reduces envy, builds contentment, and frees energy that would otherwise be wasted on resentment. With that energy, you can focus on building your own path with clarity and peace. To deepen your practice, it helps to integrate gratitude into daily language. Instead of only thinking it, speak it aloud. Tell people when you appreciate them. State openly what you value in your life. The act of verbalizing gratitude reinforces its power in your mind and spreads positivity outward. The more you express it, the more natural it becomes, until it becomes part of your identity. People will begin to associate you with positivity and strength, not because you ignore reality, but because you face it with appreciation. It is also important to practice gratitude toward yourself. Many people overlook this step, thinking gratitude is only for external blessings. But acknowledging your own effort, persistence, and growth is equally important. Thank yourself for not giving up when it would have been easier. Appreciate the progress you've made, even if it's small. Recognize the qualities that have carried you this far. This self-directed gratitude fuels self-respect and gives you the confidence to continue even when the road ahead is uncertain. Gratitude is not about pretending life is perfect. It is about recognizing that even in imperfection, there is something to value. Life is a mix of difficulty and beauty, and gratitude ensures that the beauty is never lost in the noise of hardship. By practicing gratitude daily, you remind yourself that setbacks are temporary, while growth and strength can last forever. You teach your mind to see challenges as teachers and struggles as opportunities to prove your resilience. When you wake each morning and choose gratitude, you begin your day from a place of abundance rather than lack. When you end each night with gratitude, you close the day with peace rather than regret. Over weeks and months, this daily practice shapes your perspective so deeply that resilience becomes natural. You no longer crumble under pressure because your mind has been trained to find stability even in storms. Gratitude is one of the simplest practices you can adopt, but its impact is profound. It costs nothing, yet it adds immeasurable value. It takes only moments, yet its effect can last a lifetime. When you commit to practicing gratitude daily, you change the foundation of how you experience life. You stop being at the mercy of external events and start guiding your response with inner strength. Challenges will still come, but instead of breaking you, they will reveal how strong you have become. Gratitude reframes difficulty, fuels resilience, and transforms the way you live each day. And when you choose to live with gratitude, you carry a quiet but unshakable power that no circumstance can take away. Chapter 9. Choose vulnerability to build trust, deepen bonds, and invite growth. True strength is not found in building walls around yourself, but in daring to let them down and allowing others to see who you really are. Vulnerability is often misunderstood as weakness, when in reality it is one of the greatest sources of courage a person can embody. It takes far more bravery to say, "This is me, imperfect, human, and still growing," than it does to hide behind masks of control and perfection. Choosing vulnerability is what opens the door to genuine trust, deeper bonds, and personal growth that cannot be achieved through surface-level interactions. When you shield yourself from vulnerability, you may feel safe, but you also cut yourself off from connection. Walls protect, but they also isolate. People can only meet you at the level you allow them to see, and if you only present strength, composure, and certainty, they will never have the chance to know your fears, your hopes, or your struggles, the parts of you that make you relatable and real. Authentic relationships are not built on perfection, they are built on honesty. Vulnerability is the language of authenticity, and it creates a space where trust can grow naturally. Consider how relationships deepen. When someone shares with you something personal, their worries, their insecurities, or a painful experience, it doesn't push you away. Instead, it pulls you closer. You feel honored that they trusted you enough to reveal what they could have kept hidden. That moment creates a bond. The same is true when you share with others. Vulnerability signals that you are willing to trust, and that act of trust invites reciprocity. This is how relationships move from polite conversations to meaningful connections. In growth, vulnerability plays an equally important role. It is impossible to grow if you are unwilling to admit what you don't know, where you need help, or how you might have failed. Without vulnerability, pride takes over, and pride closes the door to learning. Growth requires humility, the willingness to say, "I don't have it all figured out, but I am willing to learn." That statement is vulnerability in action. It transforms setbacks into lessons, mistakes into opportunities, and criticism into guidance. There is also a freedom that comes with vulnerability. When you stop trying to maintain an image of being unshakable, you release the exhausting burden of constant performance. You no longer waste energy pretending. You give yourself permission to be human, to have flaws, and to still be worthy of respect and love. That freedom is deeply empowering because it allows you to live with honesty rather than fear. Choosing vulnerability doesn't mean exposing yourself carelessly to everyone. It requires discernment. Trust is built gradually, and you must decide who has earned the right to see the more tender parts of your life. Vulnerability is not about oversharing. It is about being genuine in the right spaces. The strength lies in choosing carefully but refusing to close yourself off entirely. It's the balance of courage and wisdom that makes vulnerability powerful. When you practice vulnerability, you also give others permission to do the same. People are drawn to authenticity because it feels rare in a world full of masks. When you speak openly about your challenges, you send the message that imperfection is normal and that honesty is valued. This creates an atmosphere where people feel safe to be themselves, and in that safety, trust flourishes. Leaders who practice vulnerability are often the most respected because they show that strength and humanity can exist side by side. One of the most practical ways to embrace vulnerability is to be honest about your emotions. Instead of saying, "I'm fine," when you're not, share what you truly feel. If you are hurt, say so. If you are grateful, express it. If you are uncertain, admit it. Emotional honesty builds credibility because people learn that your words can be trusted. It removes the guessing game and creates clear communication, which strengthens every relationship. Another practice is asking for help when you need it. Many avoid this because they believe it makes them look incapable. But asking for help shows courage. It acknowledges that you value growth more than pride. It also strengthens bonds because it allows others to contribute to your journey. People want to feel useful and trusted, and by asking for their support, you show that their presence matters. Vulnerability also plays a key role in forgiveness. Holding grudges feels safe because it shields you from being hurt again. But forgiveness requires opening yourself up to the possibility of disappointment. Yet without forgiveness, resentment builds walls that keep you from healing. Vulnerability in forgiveness is not about denying the pain, but about choosing to release the grip of bitterness so you can move forward lighter and freer. There will always be risks in being vulnerable. Some people may misuse your openness or fail to understand it, but the benefits far outweigh the risks. Every meaningful connection, every breakthrough in growth, every moment of authentic love or trust comes through vulnerability. The alternative, living behind barriers, may protect you from hurt, but it will also rob you of depth, connection, and the joy of being truly known. The practice of vulnerability builds resilience as well. When you face the fear of being judged, misunderstood, or rejected and you still choose openness, you develop inner strength. Each time you practice vulnerability, you prove to yourself that you can survive discomfort and grow from it. You stop fearing rejection as much because you learn that even if others don't respond as you hoped, your worth remains intact. Vulnerability becomes a tool for building unshakable confidence, rooted not in image, but in authenticity. Think of the relationships and opportunities that may have passed you by simply because you held back from showing who you really are. Think of the times you wanted to say something meaningful but stayed silent out of fear. Vulnerability is the antidote to those missed chances. It gives you the courage to speak, to connect, and to live without constant regret of what you didn't say or show. When you choose vulnerability, you choose growth. You choose to step out of your comfort zone and into the space where transformation happens. You choose connection over isolation, truth over performance, freedom over fear. Vulnerability is not weakness. It is the raw material from which strength, trust, and deep fulfillment are built. And once you begin practicing it, you discover that far from making you fragile, it makes you unbreakable in the ways that truly matter. Chapter 10. Create consistent emotional check-ins to track progress and healing. Real transformation begins when you stop moving on autopilot and start paying attention to the emotional patterns that shape your choices each day. Most people set goals for their careers, health, or finances, but few ever set goals for their emotions. Yet emotions drive decisions, shape relationships, and define the quality of life itself. Without tracking how you feel, you miss the signals that show whether you're truly healing, growing, or repeating cycles that keep you stuck. Creating consistent emotional check-ins is the discipline that brings clarity, helps you measure progress, and guides you toward lasting balance. An emotional check-in is a simple but powerful act of pausing to notice what you are feeling in the moment and why. It interrupts the cycle of rushing through life without awareness and forces you to ask questions that matter. Am I at peace or restless right now? Am I carrying tension that I haven't acknowledged? Do I feel fulfilled or drained after this experience? These questions may seem small, but they shine a light on the state of your inner world. Just as a doctor measures vital signs to understand health, you measure emotional signals to understand growth. Consistency is what gives this practice its power. Checking in with yourself once a month will not bring change, because emotional awareness fades quickly without reinforcement. By making it a regular habit, daily, weekly, or even multiple times a day, you train your mind to notice shifts in mood, triggers, and patterns that might otherwise remain hidden. This awareness builds a map of your inner landscape, showing you where you are improving and where healing is still needed. Progress cannot be vague, it must be visible to become real. One of the most effective ways to practice emotional check-ins is journaling. Writing forces you to slow down and translate feelings into words, which gives structure to what can otherwise feel overwhelming. A few sentences each day, naming emotions, describing events, and noting reactions can reveal trends that are invisible in the moment. Over time, you may notice that certain environments consistently drain you while others uplift you. You may realize that specific habits lower your stress while others increase it. This knowledge gives you the power to make intentional changes instead of repeating unhealthy cycles unconsciously. Another method is rating your emotions on a scale. For example, at the start and end of each day, give your stress, happiness, or energy a number from 1 to 10. These numbers may seem simple, but they create measurable data about your emotional journey. You might discover that mornings are consistently anxious, or that evenings feel lighter after specific activities. This practice doesn't just capture how you feel, it captures how your choices influence how you feel. With that information, you can adjust and create a lifestyle that supports stability and healing. Emotional check-ins are also about accountability. It's easy to tell yourself that you are improving or that you've let go of the past, but the truth often hides behind busyness. By checking in consistently, you hold yourself accountable to honesty. If anger, sadness, or fear keeps showing up, it means more work is needed. If joy and calm appear more often, it signals that healing is taking root. Instead of guessing, you create proof of progress. Accountability to your own truth is what prevents self-deception from stalling your growth. This practice also strengthens resilience. When you regularly face your emotions, you stop fearing them. You no longer see sadness as something to run from or stress as something to suppress. Instead, you learn to observe emotions as information, not threats. This mindset allows you to respond calmly rather than react impulsively. Over time, this builds an inner stability that remains even during challenges, because you know how to process emotions instead of being controlled by them. The benefits of emotional check-ins extend to relationships as well. When you know your emotional state, you can communicate more clearly with others. You can say, "I feel overwhelmed right now and need space," or "I feel grateful for your support today." This honesty reduces misunderstandings and builds trust. Without awareness, emotions leak out in unhealthy ways, through irritation, withdrawal, or defensiveness, damaging relationships without explanation. With awareness, you bring clarity and authenticity that deepens connections. To integrate emotional check-ins into daily life, you don't need complicated rituals. A quiet moment in the morning before starting work, a pause during lunch, or reflection before bed can all become check-in points. The key is not length, but sincerity. Even 60 seconds of honest attention can shift how you approach the rest of your day. Over time, this habit rewires your mind to become naturally more self-aware, making emotional intelligence a part of who you are rather than something you occasionally practice. Technology can also support this habit. There are apps designed for mood tracking that allow you to log emotions quickly and review them over weeks or months. But even without tools, a simple notebook or the notes section on your phone is enough. The method matters less than the consistency. What matters most is your commitment to knowing yourself and refusing to live in emotional blindness. One of the most transformative results of emotional check-ins is the ability to celebrate small victories. Healing and growth are rarely dramatic overnight changes. They are subtle shifts that happen gradually. Without tracking, you may not notice progress and feel discouraged. But when you look back and see that your stress has decreased or your joy has increased over time, you gain motivation to continue. Progress that is measured becomes progress that is honored. Another benefit is recognizing triggers before they escalate. By reviewing your emotions regularly, you learn what consistently sparks negative reactions. This knowledge allows you to prepare, set boundaries, or change habits before situations spiral. Instead of wondering why you feel stuck, you gain clarity about the causes and the choices available to you. Awareness gives you control where once you felt powerless. Consistency in emotional check-ins also teaches patience. Growth is not linear, and emotions fluctuate. Some days you will feel strong and balanced, other days heavy and discouraged. But when you check in regularly, you see the bigger picture rather than judging yourself based on a single day. You understand that healing is a journey, and each step, whether forward or backward, is part of progress. Patience grows naturally when you commit to consistent reflection. Ultimately, emotional check-ins are not about perfection. They are about presence. They remind you that your inner world deserves as much attention as your outer achievements. They teach you that emotional health is not something to ignore until a crisis appears, but something to nurture daily. By practicing this discipline, you create a foundation for lasting resilience, clarity, and peace. Every time you stop to ask yourself how you feel, you strengthen the bond between your mind and your heart. You remind yourself that your emotions matter, that your healing matters, and that your growth deserves attention. In a world that pushes constant productivity and distraction, choosing to pause and check in with yourself is an act of power. It is a declaration that your well-being is non-negotiable, and that you are willing to do the work required to build a life of balance and authenticity. If you commit to consistent emotional check-ins, you will notice the difference over time. The weight of unresolved emotions will lessen, your reactions will become steadier, and your sense of direction will grow clearer. This practice is not dramatic or glamorous, but it is transformative. Small, consistent attention to your emotions creates lasting change. It keeps you honest, focused, and resilient. It is the quiet discipline that supports every other habit of emotional intelligence, and it is within your reach today. Chapter 11. Set clear intentions each morning to direct emotional habits. Every morning is a chance to shape the entire course of your day, and when you decide to set clear intentions before the noise of the world reaches you, you gain control over your emotional habits instead of letting them control you. Too many people begin their mornings in reaction mode, checking messages, worrying about tasks, and rushing through routines without giving themselves even a moment to decide what kind of energy they want to carry. But when you deliberately set an intention, you are choosing your inner direction before the outside world tries to choose it for you. It's like programming your emotional compass. Once it's set, you naturally navigate toward behaviors, thoughts, and responses that support your chosen state of mind. This doesn't require hours of effort. In fact, some of the most powerful intentions can be created in just a minute of quiet focus. When you wake up, instead of jumping straight into what needs to be done, pause, breathe deeply, and ask yourself, what emotional state do I want to practice today? If you want patience, say to yourself, I intend to be patient no matter what arises. If you want confidence, declare, "I intend to show up with calm confidence in my words and actions." These are not empty affirmations, they are commitments that direct your subconscious to look for opportunities to practice what you've chosen. The beauty of this practice is that it shifts your mornings from autopilot to conscious creation. Without intentions, your habits may drift toward old patterns: irritation when something small goes wrong, self-doubt when facing a challenge, or frustration when dealing with others. But once you've set a clear emotional intention, you catch yourself faster when you slip into reactions that don't align with what you decided. If your intention is peace and you notice stress bubbling up, you remind yourself, "This is not the energy I chose today," and redirect. Over time. This repeated correction rewires your emotional habits. Intentions also provide you with a deeper sense of consistency. Life is unpredictable. You can't control traffic, other people's moods, or sudden problems that come up. But you can always return to the intention you planted in the morning. It becomes a stabilizing anchor that helps you maintain control when circumstances threaten to throw you off balance. Instead of saying, "I'll have a good day if everything goes smoothly," you say, "I'll have a good day because I already decided how I will show up emotionally." That mindset is liberating. One of the most powerful ways to strengthen this practice is to connect your intentions to specific actions you know you will face during the day. If you have a meeting where you usually feel anxious, you might set the intention, "I intend to stay calm, breathe, and express myself clearly." If you're visiting family and expect old tensions to rise, you might say, "I intend to remain kind and not let myself be pulled into negativity." By tying your intention to real-life events, you give your brain a clear direction to follow, and you prepare yourself emotionally for those moments. It's also important to keep intentions simple and focused. A common mistake is trying to set too many at once, which dilutes the power of the practice. Instead, choose one emotional habit to focus on each day. Over time, as you practice different intentions, patience, resilience, gratitude, compassion, you build a flexible emotional toolkit. You won't just react to life's challenges anymore. You'll meet them with clarity because you've been rehearsing your chosen responses day after day. To make this practice stick, create a morning ritual around it. It can be as small as sitting quietly with your coffee, closing your eyes, and silently declaring your intention. Some people like to write theirs down in a journal, while others repeat it aloud to themselves in the mirror. The method doesn't matter as much as the consistency. By turning it into a ritual, you teach your brain that this is not an optional thought, but a deliberate daily practice. The more often you do it, the more natural it becomes. Another powerful step is to reflect in the evening on how well you lived your morning intention. This isn't about judgment, but about awareness. Ask yourself, did I act with the patience I set this morning? Did I follow through on my choice to be confident? If you slipped, that's not failure, it's feedback. Each reflection strengthens your awareness and makes it easier to live in alignment the next day. Over weeks and months, you'll see measurable changes in your emotional patterns. Setting intentions also helps you build self-trust. Every time you follow through on an emotional commitment, you prove to yourself that you can rely on your own word. That confidence carries over into every area of life. You're no longer at the mercy of moods or habits. You are actively shaping them. And when you inevitably encounter setbacks, the fact that you've practiced intention setting gives you a stronger foundation to bounce back quickly. The truth is, emotional habits are not fixed. They're trained, just like physical habits. If you train yourself to complain each morning, you'll find negativity comes easily. If you train yourself to worry, your brain will practice worry until it becomes automatic. But if you train yourself to set an intention for positivity, resilience, or peace, then that becomes the automatic state your mind returns to. You are literally teaching your brain new ways of being, and the process starts with that small but powerful act each morning. Imagine how your life could change if, every day for the next year, you woke up and intentionally chose the emotional lens through which you would see the world. How much calmer would you feel? How much stronger would your relationships be? How much more confident would you become if each day started with a conscious commitment to your best self? This is not abstract, it's real, and the only thing required is your choice. So tomorrow morning, before you let the world in, pause and decide what kind of energy you want to live with. Speak it, write it, breathe it into existence. Let that intention guide you through challenges, redirect you when you stumble, and empower you when you feel uncertain. Over time, these daily choices will create emotional habits that align with the person you want to be. And when you look back, you'll realize that it wasn't luck, chance, or circumstance that shaped your emotional life. It was your own deliberate practice of intention. That is the true power of beginning each day with clarity. Chapter 12. Practice delayed reaction to respond instead of react under pressure. One of the greatest skills you can ever master is the ability to pause before you act, because in that space between what happens to you and how you respond lies the power to shape your future. Most people live in reaction mode. Something stressful happens and they snap. Someone criticizes them and they lash out. A problem appears and they spiral into panic. But when you learn to delay your reaction, even for a few seconds, you gain an advantage that most people never develop. You move from being controlled by emotions to being guided by choice. Think about the times in your life when you regretted something you said or did. Chances are it was because you reacted too quickly. In the heat of the moment, you let your emotions take the driver's seat, and later you wished you had slowed down. Now imagine if, instead of reacting instantly, you trained yourself to breathe, pause, and let your initial surge of emotions settle before responding. That small delay is not weakness, it is strength. It allows your rational mind to catch up with your emotional impulses and gives you the clarity to decide what outcome you actually want. This practice is especially powerful under pressure, when tension runs high and mistakes can carry heavier consequences. In arguments, for example, reacting instantly often escalates conflict, while a delayed response has the potential to diffuse it. In decision-making, rushing in haste can create unnecessary problems, but pausing ensures you think through the impact. The delay doesn't have to be long. Sometimes just 3 deep breaths can make the difference between a damaging reaction and a thoughtful reply. Developing this ability requires awareness. You must first notice when your emotions are rising. The body gives signals. Your heart rate increases, your voice tightens, your muscles tense. Instead of ignoring these signs, recognize them as signals to stop and slow down. Tell yourself, I don't have to respond right this second. This simple acknowledgement gives you back control. Over time, your mind learns that urgency is often an illusion. Very few situations actually require an instant reaction. Most things can wait a moment, and in that waiting, wisdom emerges. Delaying your reaction also protects your relationships. People remember not just what you say, but how you say it. If your pattern is to snap under stress, others may become defensive or withdraw. But when you show restraint, when you take the time to listen and respond calmly, you create trust. Others feel safer around you because they know you won't erupt at every small trigger. This strengthens bonds and helps you become someone others respect, not just for what you achieve, but for the way you carry yourself under pressure. This practice also strengthens your inner resilience. Life will never stop testing you with unexpected challenges. Traffic jams, sudden expenses, disagreements, disappointments. You can't prevent these moments, but you can choose not to let them dictate your mood or behavior. The habit of delayed reaction gives you a shield. Instead of being thrown off balance every time something happens, you stand grounded, observing first, choosing second. You stop letting circumstances pull you like a puppet, and instead you become the one holding the strings. At first, practicing delayed reaction can feel unnatural, especially if you've spent years responding automatically. You might feel the urge to speak immediately, to defend yourself, to prove a point. But with repetition, it becomes second nature. Each time you hold back, you prove to yourself that you are stronger than your impulses. Over weeks and months, this builds a deeper sense of self-mastery. You no longer see yourself as someone at the mercy of emotions. You see yourself as someone capable of directing them. A powerful technique to support this practice is visualizing. Each morning, imagine scenarios where you know you are likely to react impulsively. Picture yourself pausing, breathing, and then responding with clarity. By rehearsing this mentally, you prepare yourself to succeed when the real moment arrives. Another method is to give yourself a mantra, a short phrase you can repeat when emotions rise. Something like, "Pause first," or "I choose my response." These reminders act as anchors, pulling you back into awareness before you get carried away. It's also important to realize that delaying your reaction does not mean suppressing your feelings. It doesn't mean pretending you aren't angry, hurt, or frustrated. It means you acknowledge those emotions, but give yourself the gift of time to decide how to express them in a way that serves you. Suppression leads to resentment, but thoughtful response leads to growth. When you respond instead of react, you transform emotion into communication, into action, into progress. Over time, this practice changes how you experience challenges. Instead of seeing them as threats, you begin to see them as opportunities to practice your new strength. Every difficult moment becomes a test where you get to prove to yourself that you can remain calm and in control. And each time you succeed, you feel a surge of confidence that builds on itself. Slowly, your identity shifts. You no longer see yourself as someone who panics under pressure, but as someone who leads with composure. Think of the impact this could have on your life. In your career, people will notice that you remain steady when others lose control, making you a natural leader. In your family, your children, partner, or friends will feel more supported because they know they can count on you to handle stress with maturity. And within yourself, you'll feel a deeper sense of peace because you no longer carry the regrets that come from reacting in ways you wish you hadn't. The truth is, the pause is power. It is a small act that creates massive results. It requires discipline, but it rewards you with freedom, the freedom to choose who you are in every moment. Without it, you are a slave to circumstance. With it, you are the master of your destiny. Every day gives you countless opportunities to practice this skill, whether in small frustrations or big challenges. The more you practice, the stronger you become. So the next time you feel that surge of emotion rising, stop, breathe. Remember that you don't need to act immediately. Remind yourself that clarity comes with time, and wisdom comes with patience. Then, when you're ready, respond, not with impulse but with intention. Do this consistently, and you'll notice a profound shift in how you experience life. You will become calmer, stronger, more respected, and more at peace. And you'll realize that the secret to mastering pressure is not about reacting faster, it's about pausing long enough to respond better. Chapter 13. Develop curiosity about others' feelings to improve empathy and connection. The fastest way to transform your relationships and strengthen your emotional intelligence is by choosing to be genuinely curious about the feelings of others. Curiosity opens doors that judgment and assumptions slam shut. When you take the time to wonder what someone else might be experiencing, you step outside the narrow limits of your own perspective and into a space of connection that makes people feel seen, heard, and valued. Most people listen only to reply, but curiosity invites you to listen to understand, and that is where empathy begins. Think of the last time you felt misunderstood. It likely wasn't because someone intentionally ignored you, but because they didn't ask, didn't probe, and didn't care enough to see what was beneath the surface. Now imagine if they had paused and said, "I'd like to understand how you're feeling right now." That single act would have shifted everything. When you develop the habit of curiosity toward the emotions of others, you create that same transformation in their lives. It is one of the most practical ways to deepen trust, strengthen bonds, and build authentic connection. Curiosity about feelings requires patience. You cannot rush someone into sharing what they feel, nor can you assume you already know their inner world. Instead, you create a safe space by asking open-ended questions and then staying quiet long enough to let their answers emerge. It is not about solving their problems right away, but about showing interest in their experience. Questions like, "How did that situation make you feel?" or "What's been on your mind lately?" open pathways to conversations that reveal the deeper layers of a person's heart. This practice also forces you to let go of assumptions. Too often, we believe we know what others are feeling simply by observing their actions, but emotions are rarely that simple. Anger can mask hurt, withdrawal can hide fear, and laughter can cover pain. By approaching others with curiosity, you learn not to take everything at face value. You begin to ask, what's really happening for them right now? That question alone can shift how you interpret behavior and prevent unnecessary conflict. Developing curiosity doesn't just improve your understanding of others, it also improves how others experience you. People naturally gravitate toward those who make them feel important. When you show genuine interest in someone's inner world, they feel valued, respected, and cared for. They sense that you're not only hearing their words, but also acknowledging their emotions. This fosters closeness and builds the kind of loyalty and trust that surface-level interactions can never achieve. Curiosity also deepens empathy. Empathy isn't simply about feeling sorry for someone, it's about connecting to their emotions in a meaningful way. And the more you learn to ask about feelings, the more you strengthen your ability to put yourself in their place. Over time, you become more attuned to emotional cues, more patient with differences, and more compassionate in your responses. Instead of seeing people only through the lens of your own experiences, you begin to appreciate the complexity of their journeys. This habit can transform not only personal relationships, but also professional ones. In the workplace, leaders who are curious about their team members' emotions create cultures where people thrive. Employees feel motivated because they're not just seen as workers, but as humans with challenges, dreams, and needs. Colleagues who take time to ask and listen build stronger collaboration, reduce misunderstandings, and create environments of support instead of competition. The simple act of curiosity can turn ordinary groups into strong, connected communities. Practicing this skill starts with slowing down. You cannot be curious if you are rushing through conversations, multitasking, or focusing only on what you want to say. It requires presence. When someone speaks, give them your full attention. Maintain eye contact, put away distractions, and show through your body language that you care. These non-verbal cues signal that you are invested, making it easier for them to open up. At the same time, curiosity is about balance. you must respect boundaries. Not everyone will be ready to share everything, and pushing too hard can backfire. The goal is not to interrogate, but to invite. If someone doesn't want to talk, your role is to honor that, while leaving the door open for when they're ready. Genuine curiosity always respects the other person's pace. Over time, you'll notice that being curious about others' feelings changes the way you handle disagreements. Instead of defending your position right away, you'll start by exploring the other person's perspective. Instead of saying, "You're wrong," you'll say, "Help me understand what you're feeling about this." That shift alone reduces tension and opens space for dialogue. Arguments that might have escalated into resentment can instead become opportunities for deeper connection. Curiosity also expands your worldview. Every person carries experiences you have never lived, and each story adds depth to your understanding of humanity. By asking and listening, you expose yourself to perspectives that challenge your assumptions and broaden your empathy. This makes you not only more compassionate, but also more adaptable in navigating the complexities of life. To strengthen this habit, practice asking one more question in every meaningful conversation. When someone shares something, don't stop at the surface. If they say they're stressed, instead of simply nodding, ask, "What's been the hardest part for you?" If they say they're excited, ask, "What about it makes you feel so energized?" These small extensions invite people to share more, and they create conversations that go deeper than the usual exchanges. It's also important to listen without judgment. If you ask about feelings but dismiss or minimize them, the connection breaks. Your role is not to decide whether their emotions are valid, but to acknowledge that they matter. Phrases like "that sounds tough," or "I can see why you'd feel that way," affirm their experience without needing to agree with every detail. This validation builds safety, and safety encourages openness. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes. Eventually, curiosity stops being a conscious effort and becomes your default way of relating to people. You'll find yourself instinctively wondering how others feel, even in small interactions. You'll notice when someone is quieter than usual and check in. You'll sense when someone's enthusiasm hides fatigue and gently ask about it. These habits may seem small, but they have enormous impact over time, creating networks of trust and respect everywhere you go. When you live with curiosity toward the feelings of others, you move beyond shallow interactions and into authentic human connection. You stop assuming, you start asking, and you create relationships built on understanding rather than assumption. You give people the gift of being seen, and in return, you experience the richness of deeper bonds. So commit to this habit today. The next time you interact with someone, don't just focus on their words. Ask yourself what emotions may lie beneath. Be willing to ask, to listen, and to care. When you do, you'll discover that the path to empathy and stronger connection is not complicated. It begins with curiosity, with a willingness to step into another person's world and honor what they feel. That single choice can change the way you relate to others, and in turn, it can change the way you experience life itself. Chapter 14. Monitor self-care routines to sustain energy and emotional balance. Your energy is the foundation of everything you want to create in life, and protecting it through intentional self-care is not a luxury, it is a responsibility. The truth is that no one can perform at their best, think clearly, or maintain emotional stability when they are constantly running on empty. Many people ignore their personal needs until exhaustion forces them to stop, but those who thrive long-term are the ones who make caring for their body, mind, and spirit a daily discipline. Monitoring your self-care routines is about building awareness of what nourishes you, what drains you, and what habits allow you to consistently show up as your strongest self. It begins with recognizing that self-care is not about indulgence or escape, but about sustainability. If you want to be patient in your relationships, effective in your work, and calm under stress, you need practices that restore your energy and regulate your emotions. Skipping meals, sacrificing sleep, and pushing through without breaks may allow short bursts of productivity, but they always come with a cost. Over time, the price is irritability, poor focus, weakened health, and a constant sense of being overwhelmed. To live with balance, you must treat your personal care as a priority equal to your responsibilities. Start by paying close attention to your physical routines. The body sets the stage for every emotional experience. Sleep, movement, and nutrition are the three pillars that influence your energy more than anything else. When you lack quality rest, even minor challenges feel unbearable. When you avoid exercise, stress builds in your body with nowhere to go. When your meals are unbalanced, your mood swings and concentration suffer. By monitoring these areas daily, you become aware of patterns that either support or sabotage your well-being. Ask yourself each evening, did I sleep enough to feel restored? Did I move my body in a way that released tension? Did I fuel myself with foods that supported clarity and steadiness? These questions keep you accountable and help you notice when you're drifting from balance. Beyond the body, mental routines play a vital role. The quality of your thoughts determines how you handle stress and whether you stay centered during difficult moments. If your mind is constantly bombarded by news, negativity, or endless distractions, your emotional balance will be shaken. Self-care for the mind means creating habits that allow stillness and clarity. This might be journaling to process emotions, reading material that uplifts you, or scheduling time away from screens. Monitoring your mental care is about noticing when your thoughts feel scattered and taking steps to return to focus. Even short pauses throughout the day to breathe deeply or reset your attention can make the difference between feeling drained and feeling centered. Emotional routines are just as important. Many people neglect to check in with their feelings until they explode in anger or collapse in exhaustion. True self-care means acknowledging your emotions regularly instead of suppressing them. If you feel stressed, admit it. If you feel sad, allow yourself to feel without shame. By recognizing emotions early, you can respond with practices that restore balance instead of letting tension build. This may mean talking to someone supportive, writing your feelings down, or stepping outside for fresh air. What matters is that you don't dismiss what your inner world is telling you. Emotional care is not weakness, it is wisdom, because it prevents small issues from becoming overwhelming burdens. Consistency is the key to sustaining these routines. Taking care of yourself only when you are already depleted is not enough. Balance comes from daily choices repeated over time. That is why monitoring is so powerful. It keeps you aware of your habits and stops you from sliding into neglect. Some people use journals or trackers to rate their sleep, exercise, and mood. Others set aside a few minutes in the morning and evening to reflect on how they are treating themselves. The method matters less than the commitment. By making self-care a routine practice instead of an occasional correction, you create stability that protects you in both good and difficult seasons. Boundaries also play a role in sustaining energy. No matter how strong your personal routines are, they will collapse if you allow constant intrusion from others. Protecting your time, saying no when necessary, and limiting exposure to toxic influences are all forms of self-care. Every time you agree to something that drains you, you are withdrawing energy from the things that matter most. Monitoring your boundaries is about noticing where your energy leaks occur and making adjustments to stop them. This might mean reducing time spent on meaningless distractions or being more selective with commitments. By doing so, you preserve your strength for the people and goals that deserve it. There is also a spiritual dimension to self-care, which does not necessarily mean religion, but rather practices that give your life meaning and grounding. Reflection, gratitude, or simply spending time in nature are ways to nurture the deeper part of yourself. When you make space for silence or for activities that connect you to something greater than daily stress, your emotional balance becomes stronger. Monitoring this aspect means asking yourself whether you are living in alignment with your values or whether you are simply running through tasks without fulfillment. Ignoring the spirit leads to emptiness, while nurturing it provides resilience and peace. Practical steps can make this easier. You can schedule your routines the same way you schedule work. Block time for sleep, plan meals in advance, and set reminders for movement breaks. You can also build rituals around transitions in your day, such as taking a walk after work to separate stress from rest, or practicing gratitude before sleep to calm your mind. These small actions, repeated daily, create a structure that protects your energy without requiring constant decision-making. It is also essential to recognize that self-care evolves with your circumstances. What you needed a year ago may not be what you need now. Monitoring means regularly evaluating whether your routines are still effective. If you feel consistently tired or emotionally unsteady, it may be a sign that your habits need to change. Being flexible and adjusting rather than clinging to routines that no longer serve you ensures that your care grows with you. Sustaining energy and emotional balance is not about perfection. There will be days when you miss sleep, skip meals, or feel overwhelmed. What matters is how quickly you notice and return to balance. Monitoring creates awareness, and awareness creates choice. Each day you have the chance to care for yourself in ways that allow you to show up strong and steady. Without this, your relationships suffer, your work declines, and your sense of peace disappears. With it, you gain the ability to live fully and handle life's challenges with clarity and strength. So take this seriously. Self-care is not optional if you want to live with energy, focus, and balance. It is the foundation that allows you to thrive in every area of life. Begin by noticing how you treat yourself today. Make small adjustments where you see neglect. Build consistent routines that serve your body, mind, emotions, and spirit. Protect your boundaries and adjust when needed. Over time, you will not only feel more energized, but also more emotionally steady, more present in your relationships, and more capable of facing life's demands with resilience. Your life becomes stronger when you make yourself a priority, and monitoring your self-care is how you ensure that strength never fades. Chapter 15. Reduce blame and own mistakes to accelerate personal accountability. The fastest way to grow, achieve your goals, and gain true respect is by taking full responsibility for your actions and refusing to blame others for your mistakes. Blame is a trap that keeps people stuck, powerless, and frustrated. Every time you point the finger at someone else, you give away your control over the situation, your emotions, and ultimately your life. Accountability is the antidote. It is the practice of looking honestly at your choices, owning your errors, and using them as fuel for growth rather than excuses for stagnation. Many people fall into the habit of blaming circumstances, other people, or even their past as a way to avoid discomfort. It feels easier to say, "If only they had done this," or "I was unlucky," than to examine your own role in the outcome. But avoiding responsibility never changes results. It merely delays your progress and teaches your mind to seek excuses instead of solutions. To move forward, you must confront the truth that your actions and decisions create the majority of your life experience, and only by owning them can you change it. The first step is cultivating awareness. When something goes wrong, pause and ask yourself, What part of this situation did I contribute to? This is not an exercise in self-punishment, but in clarity. You are identifying the choices, attitudes, or habits that may have influenced the outcome. Even small actions, like procrastination, lack of preparation, or a dismissive response, can create ripple effects. Acknowledging your part is empowering because it tells you that you also hold the power to create different results next time. Owning mistakes also transforms your emotional experience. When you blame others, you remain stuck in resentment, frustration, or anger, which drains energy and clouds judgment. Accountability, on the other hand, replaces blame with clarity and action. By admitting your role, you move from being a victim to being a problem solver. This shift strengthens resilience, reduces stress, and opens the door for constructive change. You no longer waste mental energy on complaints, you channel it into solutions. It is also critical to adopt honesty in your self-assessment. People often rationalize their mistakes or partially blame circumstances to protect their self-image. This creates a dangerous cycle where errors are repeated because the real cause is never addressed. True growth comes when you accept your mistakes fully, without excuses, and without hiding from uncomfortable truths. This requires courage, but the result is freedom. When you face reality directly, you gain control over your decisions and their outcomes. Accountability strengthens relationships as well. When you openly admit mistakes, others respect your integrity. Trust is built not on perfection, but on the willingness to own your part in conflicts or failures. In personal or professional settings, someone who consistently blames others loses credibility and influence. Someone who acknowledges errors, corrects them, and learns from them earns respect and fosters collaboration. Owning mistakes doesn't make you weak. It makes you reliable, trustworthy, and competent. Another key aspect is learning from mistakes. Accountability is not only admitting that something went wrong, but analyzing why it happened and taking concrete steps to prevent recurrence. Reflect on what decisions, actions, or assumptions led to the outcome. Then create a plan to improve. This could involve acquiring new skills, adjusting habits, improving communication, or setting clearer expectations. The more deliberate you are in extracting lessons, the faster you accelerate personal growth. Avoiding blame also enhances emotional intelligence. When you stop projecting responsibility onto others, you become more aware of your own patterns, triggers, and limitations. You begin to see situations with greater clarity instead of through the lens of resentment. This awareness allows for better decision-making, more controlled reactions, and stronger problem-solving skills. You learn to navigate challenges with maturity and foresight rather than defensiveness. It is also helpful to adopt a proactive mindset. Don't wait for mistakes to reveal themselves. Regularly review your actions and decisions and ask, am I contributing positively or am I unintentionally causing problems? Being proactive prevents small errors from escalating and demonstrates a high level of self-discipline. When you practice this consistently, accountability becomes a habit and your personal and professional effectiveness increases exponentially. Part of accountability is also taking action to repair consequences. When your mistakes affect others, acknowledge the impact and take steps to make amends. A sincere apology paired with corrective action demonstrates integrity and maturity. It strengthens bonds, restores trust, and reduces lingering tension. Avoiding responsibility only prolongs harm and erodes confidence in your character. Over time, embracing accountability accelerates your personal growth in ways that excuses never can. Every mistake becomes a teacher, every setback a guide, and every acknowledgement a step toward mastery. You develop the ability to analyze situations clearly, respond with wisdom, and prevent repetitive patterns. Life becomes a series of lessons rather than a collection of failures, and your emotional intelligence expands naturally as you navigate challenges with honesty and courage. Reducing blame also empowers decision-making. When you accept that your choices shape your outcomes, you gain the clarity to make better decisions moving forward. You stop waiting for external factors to change and focus on what you can control. This mindset creates confidence and initiative, and it allows you to act decisively even in uncertain circumstances. You realize that while you cannot control everything, you can always control your response and effort. Start practicing accountability today. When an error occurs, pause before assigning blame. Look inward first. Ask yourself what actions, assumptions, or oversights contributed to the outcome. Then, write down the lessons and create a practical plan to improve. Share your responsibility with those affected if appropriate, and take visible steps to correct your mistakes. This cycle of reflection, acknowledgement, and action will strengthen every area of your life. Remember, accountability is not a one-time act. It is a lifelong practice. Every choice you make, every interaction, and every outcome is an opportunity to refine this skill. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes, and the less you feel the need to point fingers. In the process, your confidence grows, your relationships improve, and your ability to navigate challenges increases. The world respects those who own their actions, and life rewards those who embrace responsibility. Owning mistakes transforms your life because it turns setbacks into lessons, frustration into insight, and blame into power. By reducing blame and taking responsibility, you accelerate personal growth, strengthen emotional resilience, and create a life defined by integrity rather than excuses. It is the single most effective habit for anyone who wants to achieve meaningful success while maintaining clarity, balance, and respect from themselves and others. Chapter 16. Practice constructive feedback to grow professionally and strengthen relationships. The most powerful skill you can develop to elevate your career and deepen personal connections is the ability to give feedback that is constructive, clear, and actionable. Feedback is not criticism, it is a bridge between where someone is and where they can grow. Many people shy away from providing honest input because they fear conflict or rejection, yet avoiding feedback creates stagnation, misunderstanding, and missed opportunities for improvement. When you learn to communicate observations with respect and clarity, you not only help others grow but also strengthen trust, collaboration, and your own credibility. Constructive feedback begins with intention. Before speaking, clarify why you are offering it and what outcome you want to achieve. Your goal is to support improvement, not to vent frustration or assert superiority. By keeping this purpose at the center, your tone, words, and approach naturally align with growth rather than judgment. Feedback delivered with the right intention is received with openness, while feedback delivered from irritation or ego is often met with resistance. Effective feedback requires observation and specificity. General statements like, "You need to improve," or "that was wrong," provide no guidance and can create defensiveness. Instead, focus on precise behaviors, actions, or outcomes. For example, saying, "I noticed in the meeting you interrupted colleagues several times, which made it hard for them to share their ideas." In future, waiting until others finish speaking could help the discussion flow better, conveys the exact issue and a path forward. Specific feedback removes ambiguity and gives the other person control over how to respond. Timing is equally important. Feedback is most effective when delivered close to the event, but in a setting that allows privacy and reflection. Public criticism can humiliate, while delayed feedback can lose relevance. Approach conversations with thoughtfulness, choosing a moment when the recipient is receptive and can process your words without defensiveness. Setting a calm tone from the start, perhaps by expressing appreciation or acknowledging their efforts, creates a supportive environment that encourages openness. Language and tone are critical tools. Use neutral, respectful words that describe behavior rather than attack character. Avoid labels like lazy, careless, or incompetent. Focus instead on actions and their impact. Phrases like "I observed" or "I noticed" keep the conversation objective, while "I suggest" or "one way to improve" points toward growth. Constructive feedback should never shame, but instead empower the recipient to take positive steps. Listening is a vital part of the process. Feedback should be a dialogue, not a monologue. Allow the other person to share their perspective, explain their reasoning, and ask questions. Often, what appears to be a problem has underlying causes you may not have considered. By practicing active listening, you validate their experience, demonstrate respect, and gain insights that can lead to better solutions. Constructive feedback without listening is incomplete and risks alienating the person you want to help. Balancing positive and corrective input is essential. Highlight strengths and accomplishments alongside areas for improvement. This balance prevents the recipient from feeling attacked and encourages them to embrace development. For example, you might say, "Your presentation was clear and engaging, and I think if you structure your closing points more succinctly, it will have an even stronger impact." Framing feedback this way celebrates effort while guiding growth. Consistency builds trust. Giving constructive feedback sporadically or only when problems arise makes it seem punitive. When you integrate regular feedback into interactions, it becomes a natural part of collaboration. People anticipate guidance as a tool for improvement rather than criticism, which strengthens relationships and encourages continuous learning. Monitoring progress and revisiting feedback shows commitment to growth and reinforces accountability. Constructive feedback also supports professional development. Leaders who provide guidance that is actionable and empathetic cultivate high-performing teams. Employees feel valued because their growth matters, which increases engagement, productivity, and loyalty. Similarly, colleagues who practice constructive feedback elevate group performance, reduce errors, and foster a culture of collaboration rather than blame. Feedback becomes a mechanism for collective success. Personal growth is equally enhanced. Practicing constructive feedback sharpens communication skills, emotional intelligence, and self-awareness. You learn to observe without judgment, speak with clarity, and consider the impact of your words. These abilities extend beyond professional contexts, improving friendships, family dynamics, and community interactions. The person who masters feedback becomes someone who influences positively without dominating, who motivates without pressure, and who inspires action through insight rather than authority. Receiving feedback is part of the cycle. Cultivating a mindset that values input from others increases your receptiveness to learning. Responding without defensiveness, reflecting on the points, and acting on the guidance models the same accountability you ask from others. The interplay between giving and receiving feedback creates a culture of mutual growth and strengthens both competence and relationships. Practical strategies include preparing before giving feedback, using examples, focusing on behavior rather than personality, listening actively, and ending with actionable suggestions. Check for understanding by asking the recipient to summarize their takeaways or propose next steps. Follow up to acknowledge improvements or offer additional guidance. These steps ensure that feedback leads to tangible results rather than being forgotten or dismissed. It is also essential to recognize emotions during feedback. Anxiety, frustration, or defensiveness may arise. Stay calm, empathetic, and patient. Validating feelings while maintaining focus on improvement allows the conversation to remain productive. Emotional awareness on both sides transforms potentially uncomfortable discussions into opportunities for connection and learning. Over time, the habit of delivering constructive feedback reshapes the way you relate to people. Conversations become opportunities for growth rather than conflict. Misunderstandings decrease, and mutual respect flourishes. You will find that your influence increases naturally because people recognize your honesty, integrity, and commitment to their development. Constructive feedback strengthens relationships by combining clarity, empathy, and action. The impact of mastering this skill extends far beyond professional success. Friends and family notice when you offer guidance with care and thoughtfulness. Conflicts are resolved faster. Misunderstandings diminish, and trust grows. Even in everyday interactions, your ability to observe, communicate, and guide positively shapes the atmosphere and encourages others to emulate the same behaviors. Every opportunity to provide feedback is an opportunity to lead, teach, and strengthen bonds. Approach it intentionally, speak with clarity, listen actively, and focus on actionable outcomes. By doing so consistently, you create an environment where improvement is welcomed, relationships are solidified, and growth becomes a shared journey. Constructive feedback is not about correcting mistakes for the sake of correction. It is about empowering others to be their best and simultaneously growing your own capacity for influence, empathy, and insight. When practiced diligently, constructive feedback transforms workplaces into communities of development, friendships into sources of mutual support, and family dynamics into partnerships of understanding. It builds trust, encourages accountability, and elevates performance. Mastering this skill ensures that every interaction has the potential to strengthen others, while deepening your own emotional intelligence and leadership abilities. The person who gives feedback with clarity, respect, and purpose becomes a catalyst for positive change, creating results that extend far beyond a single conversation. Chapter 17. Set small, achievable goals to build momentum and emotional confidence. The quickest path to building confidence and sustaining motivation is by setting small, achievable goals that create consistent wins and measurable progress. Big ambitions are important, but attempting to leap immediately to massive outcomes often leads to overwhelm, discouragement, and inaction. Momentum is created by accumulating small victories, each one reinforcing your ability to take action, make decisions, and move forward. By focusing on goals that are realistic and manageable, you train your mind to expect success, which strengthens emotional resilience and self-trust. Small goals work because they are tangible and controllable. When you aim for something specific that you can realistically accomplish, your mind experiences the satisfaction of completion. That sense of accomplishment triggers positive emotions and reinforces the belief that effort leads to results. Over time, these repeated successes accumulate, building a foundation of confidence that allows you to tackle increasingly challenging objectives. Each small win becomes evidence that you are capable, disciplined, and resilient. The process begins with clarity. Identify what you truly want to achieve, then break it into the smallest actionable steps. Instead of saying, "I want to be healthier," choose a concrete goal like, "I will walk for 15 minutes each morning." Instead of saying, "I want to read more," start with, "I will read 10 pages each night before bed." These specific steps are attainable, measurable, and provide immediate feedback, which makes them emotionally satisfying. Consistency is key. Goals that are small but pursued consistently create a rhythm that reinforces habits. Repetition trains your brain to expect follow-through and builds self-discipline naturally. Each time you complete a goal, you are not just moving toward a larger objective, you are strengthening your ability to plan, focus, and act intentionally. Emotional confidence grows because you learn that success is not random luck, but the result of deliberate, repeated action. Small goals also reduce anxiety. Large, ambiguous ambitions can feel intimidating and trigger procrastination. Breaking objectives into bite-sized steps eliminates the sense of being overwhelmed and replaces it with clarity and control. When the mind perceives tasks as manageable, it releases stress and opens space for creative thinking and problem-solving. You begin to approach challenges calmly and with a sense of possibility rather than fear. Tracking progress enhances the impact of small goals. Recording achievements, no matter how minor, reinforces the positive feedback loop that builds momentum. Seeing progress in writing or visually can be motivating and provides proof of capability. It also allows you to adjust strategies, celebrate milestones, and maintain a sense of forward movement even when challenges arise. Monitoring your efforts ensures that each small goal contributes to long-term growth. Celebrating wins, even modest ones, is essential. Emotional confidence is strengthened not only by completion but by acknowledgement. Take a moment to recognize your effort, discipline, and results. This reinforces the habit of valuing yourself and your capabilities, which is critical for sustaining motivation. Over time, you begin to associate action with positive emotional rewards, creating a self-reinforcing cycle of achievement and confidence. Small goals also enhance focus. When objectives are clear and achievable, you reduce the mental clutter that comes from juggling too many expectations or worrying about failure. Each step becomes a precise target, making it easier to direct energy and attention toward meaningful action. Focused effort accelerates results, builds competence, and reinforces belief in your ability to create desired outcomes. Another important aspect is flexibility. Small goals allow for adjustment without derailing progress. If you encounter obstacles, it is easier to modify minor steps than to abandon large, rigid objectives. This adaptability ensures that momentum continues even when circumstances change. Learning to adjust while maintaining forward motion strengthens both resilience and emotional stability, reinforcing the lesson that progress is more important than perfection. Setting small goals also builds patience and perseverance. Emotional confidence is not developed in a single achievement, but through repeated experience of working toward objectives, facing obstacles, and finding ways to overcome them. Each step teaches problem-solving, determination, and persistence. By accumulating these experiences, you cultivate a mindset that is focused on solutions, growth, and self-mastery rather than frustration or defeat. The habit of breaking down larger goals into smaller, achievable actions can be applied to every area of life. Professional development, health, relationships, and personal growth all benefit from incremental progress. When you consistently practice this approach, even the most ambitious objectives become attainable. Your emotional confidence rises as you realize that consistent effort produces tangible results, and that setbacks are part of the learning process rather than proof of inadequacy. Accountability reinforces small goal achievement. Share your goals with a trusted friend, mentor, or colleague who can check in on progress and provide encouragement. External accountability motivates follow-through, provides perspective, and helps maintain consistency. Knowing that someone else is aware of your commitments adds an extra layer of responsibility and can prevent procrastination or self-sabotage. Small goals also cultivate self-awareness. Each completed step offers insight into your strengths, tendencies, and areas for improvement. You learn what strategies work best for you, how you respond to challenges, and how to adjust your approach for maximum effectiveness. This awareness is critical for long-term growth and empowers you to set progressively larger goals with confidence. Ultimately, the practice of setting small, achievable goals creates a foundation for lasting success. It trains your mind to act, rewards you with emotional reinforcement, reduces stress, improves focus, and builds confidence. The cumulative effect of repeated deliberate action transforms how you approach challenges, decisions, and opportunities. Each small step is not insignificant. It is a building block that supports bigger achievements, stronger resilience, and deeper self-belief. To begin immediately, identify one area of your life where you want improvement. Break it down into a single small concrete goal that can be accomplished today or this week. Commit to completing it fully and tracking your progress. Reflect on the experience, celebrate your success, and plan the next achievable step. By repeating this process consistently, you develop momentum that propels you forward, cultivates emotional confidence, and establishes a pattern of disciplined action that becomes unstoppable. The power of small goals lies in their ability to transform ambition into action, fear into confidence, and overwhelm into clarity. By focusing on what is attainable now, you build the emotional resilience and practical capability necessary to reach larger objectives. Every step counts. Every accomplishment matters, and every day you commit to consistent progress, you reinforce the belief that you are capable of achieving whatever you set your mind to. Master this habit and watch as momentum grows, confidence deepens, and your life unfolds in alignment with your highest potential. Chapter 18. Create calming rituals before sleep to process emotions and restore. The most powerful way to end each day with clarity, peace, and emotional balance is to create calming rituals before sleep that allow your mind and body to release tension and restore energy. Sleep is not just a break from activity, it is a critical period for emotional processing, physical restoration, and mental rejuvenation. Without intentional preparation, unresolved stress, anxiety, or negative thoughts can carry over into the night, disrupting rest and leaving you drained the next day. By establishing rituals that soothe your emotions and calm your mind, you transform bedtime into a powerful tool for resilience, emotional intelligence, and overall well-being. Begin by creating a consistent routine that signals to your body and mind that the day is concluding. Consistency builds trust between your conscious and subconscious mind, making it easier to transition into rest. This might include dimming lights, turning off electronic devices, and engaging in quiet reflection. The goal is to separate the busyness of the day from the restorative environment of the night, allowing your mind to slow and release tension. Over time, this ritual trains your body to respond automatically, easing stress and promoting deeper sleep. Calming rituals should include practices that facilitate emotional processing. Journaling is one of the most effective methods. Take 10 to 15 minutes to write about your day, acknowledging successes, noting challenges, and expressing emotions honestly. This practice allows your mind to organize thoughts, release negative energy, and gain perspective on experiences. By putting emotions into words, you create distance from them, reducing their intensity and promoting clarity. Writing also serves as a record to reflect upon later, providing insights into patterns, triggers, and growth opportunities. Mindful breathing exercises are another essential element. Slow, deep breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, reducing heart rate and calming stress responses. Inhale deeply through your nose for 4 counts, hold for 4, exhale slowly for 6 counts, and repeat several times. As you breathe, focus entirely on the rhythm and sensation of air moving in and out. This directs attention away from lingering worries, creating a state of presence that allows emotions to settle naturally. Breathing in this way before sleep signals to your body that it is safe to relax and restore. Incorporating reflection and gratitude into your evening ritual strengthens emotional resilience. Spend a few minutes identifying 3 things you are grateful for, no matter how small. Gratitude shifts focus from problems to possibilities and reinforces positive neural pathways that support emotional stability. Recognizing the day's positive aspects, even amid challenges, balances your emotional state and reduces the likelihood of ruminating on stress or negative experiences during sleep. This practice nurtures a mindset of appreciation that carries forward into the next day. Gentle movement or stretching is also highly effective. Tension accumulates in the body throughout the day, particularly in the neck, shoulders and back, which can exacerbate stress and disrupt rest. Slow stretches, yoga poses, or even a brief walk around your home releases muscular tension and signals relaxation to your nervous system. Combined with mindful breathing, movement allows your body and mind to align in a state of calm, preparing you for restorative sleep. Limiting exposure to stimulating activities before bedtime is critical. Avoid checking emails, scrolling social media, or watching intense content. These activities can prolong stress responses, increase alertness, and disrupt natural circadian rhythms. Instead, engage in quiet, restorative practices such as reading, listening to calming music, or gentle meditation. Creating a screen-free buffer of at least 30 minutes allows your mind to transition from the active demands of the day to a reflective, restorative state. Visualization can enhance your calming ritual. Imagine a peaceful environment, a place where you feel safe, supported, and free from stress. Visualize yourself letting go of worries, tensions, and unresolved conflicts, placing them aside as the day concludes. This mental rehearsal prepares your mind for rest, reinforces emotional release, and supports a sense of control over your inner world. Visualization strengthens emotional processing and encourages clarity of thought, allowing for a more balanced perspective when you awaken. Sound and environment play a powerful role in calming the mind. Consider using soft, ambient music, nature sounds, or white noise to create a soothing atmosphere. Adjust your bedroom temperature, lighting, and bedding to maximize comfort and signal to your body that it is time to sleep. A well-prepared environment supports both emotional and physical restoration, making your rituals more effective and enhancing the quality of your rest. Evening rituals should also include reflection on lessons learned and intentional planning for tomorrow. This practice does not burden the mind with worry, but allows you to acknowledge what you can control and release what you cannot. Identify 1 or 2 priorities for the next day, and then consciously let go of concerns about outcomes. Structuring thoughts in this way reduces anxiety, enhances focus, and promotes a sense of preparedness, which in turn supports emotional stability and confidence. Consistency and repetition are essential for these rituals to have lasting impact. The more you practice calming pre-sleep routines, the more automatic they become. Your mind begins to associate these actions with relaxation and emotional release, reducing stress responses over time and increasing both emotional intelligence and resilience. This consistency allows sleep to serve not just as rest, but as a powerful mechanism for processing emotions, restoring energy, and preparing you for challenges with clarity and composure. Over time, the cumulative effect of these practices transforms both your nights and your days. Emotional tension that previously carried over from one day to the next diminishes. You approach problems with greater clarity, make decisions with steadier focus, and interact with others from a place of balance rather than reaction. Your ability to manage stress improves, your resilience strengthens, and your overall emotional intelligence deepens. Sleep becomes a tool for growth, restoration, and emotional mastery. The key to success is personalization. Choose rituals that resonate with you and consistently adapt them based on what provides the most emotional relief and clarity. Observe how different practices affect your mood, stress levels, and sleep quality, and refine your routine accordingly. The act of designing and committing to a ritual itself reinforces discipline, self-awareness, and the ability to care for your own emotional well-being. Creating calming rituals before sleep is not a luxury, it is a necessity for anyone seeking emotional clarity, resilience, and sustainable personal growth. Each night, by dedicating intentional time to process emotions, release stress, and prepare your mind and body for rest, you strengthen your ability to navigate life with balance, insight, and confidence. These rituals transform sleep into a foundation for emotional restoration, empowering you to wake each day renewed, focused, and prepared to respond thoughtfully to whatever challenges arise. By integrating journaling, mindful breathing, gratitude, gentle movement, visualization, and intentional reflection into your nightly routine, you cultivate a mindset that values emotional processing, self-care, and mental clarity. You reduce the carryover of stress, strengthen emotional intelligence, and restore energy efficiently. The consistent practice of calming rituals before sleep equips you with the tools to navigate life with greater composure, emotional insight, and resilience. Master this approach and watch as each night becomes an opportunity to heal, reflect, and prepare for meaningful growth. Chapter 19. Strengthen problem-solving skills to face stress with clear plans. The ability to solve problems efficiently and calmly is one of the most powerful skills you can develop to face stress with confidence and clarity. Life constantly presents challenges, unexpected obstacles, and pressures that can easily overwhelm your mind if approached without strategy. Stress often magnifies problems, making them seem larger and more complicated than they truly are. But when you strengthen your problem-solving skills, you gain the capacity to approach difficulties systematically, identify solutions, and act with purpose rather than panic. Developing these skills transforms stress from a paralyzing force into a motivator for focused action and personal growth. Start by training yourself to define problems clearly. Stress clouds judgment, and vague perceptions often lead to ineffective solutions. Ask yourself precisely what the issue is, what factors contribute to it, and what outcomes you want to achieve. Breaking the problem into its component parts reduces overwhelm and allows for a structured approach. Clarity is the foundation of effective problem solving because you cannot solve what is undefined or misunderstood. Next, shift your mindset from emotional reaction to rational analysis. Stress triggers a fight or flight response that prioritizes immediate emotional responses over thoughtful action. By consciously taking a step back, pausing, and observing the situation objectively, you gain control over your reactions. Deep breathing, a brief walk, or even counting to 10 can help activate the rational part of your brain, allowing you to assess options calmly. Emotional regulation is essential because it prevents impulsive decisions that often exacerbate the problem rather than resolve it. Once you have clarity, gather relevant information, identify facts, resources, and constraints related to the problem. Avoid assumptions or jumping to conclusions without evidence. Asking questions, seeking advice, and observing patterns can provide insights that may not be immediately obvious. Collecting accurate information ensures that your solutions are grounded in reality and increases the likelihood of success. This methodical approach builds confidence because you know your decisions are informed rather than hasty. Generating multiple solutions is the next critical step. Avoid fixating on a single answer, which can create anxiety if it fails. Brainstorm options freely, considering both conventional and creative approaches. Evaluate each possibility for feasibility, potential impact and risks. Listing alternatives expands your perspective, provides flexibility, and prevents the feeling of being trapped. When one approach encounters obstacles, you already have other viable strategies to pursue, reducing stress and increasing your sense of control. Prioritization is essential for effective problem solving. Not all problems or components carry equal weight, and attempting to address everything at once can be overwhelming. Identify the most urgent or impactful aspects first, and focus your energy accordingly. Breaking the solution into manageable steps ensures steady progress and prevents stagnation. Achieving small victories within a larger problem reinforces confidence and creates momentum for tackling more complex elements. Decision-making is the pivotal moment in problem solving. Evaluate the options, consider the consequences, and choose the course of action that aligns best with your objectives. Avoid overthinking or striving for perfect solutions, as indecision can magnify stress. Trust your analysis, rely on the information gathered, and commit to action. Effective problem solvers understand that clarity, preparation, and informed choice outweigh perfection. Confidence in decisions reduces anxiety and strengthens resilience. Implementation requires discipline and focus. Taking consistent action turns plans into results. Stress often tempts people to procrastinate or avoid problems entirely. But the act of moving forward, even incrementally, diminishes tension and reinforces control. Track progress, adjust strategies as needed, and remain adaptable to changing circumstances. Execution transforms theory into practice, demonstrating to yourself that challenges can be managed rather than feared. Reflecting on outcomes completes the problem-solving cycle. After taking action, review what worked, what didn't, and why. Honest reflection builds insight, teaches lessons, and informs future decisions. Stressful situations often repeat in patterns, and learning from each experience allows you to respond more effectively the next time. Reflection also strengthens emotional intelligence by linking actions with outcomes, creating a feedback loop that enhances judgment, resilience, and confidence. Stress management is intertwined with problem solving. Maintaining physical and mental well-being improves your capacity to handle challenges. Exercise, sleep, and balanced nutrition support cognitive function, focus, and emotional stability. Incorporating relaxation techniques, mindfulness, or meditation ensures that your mind remains clear and capable of deliberate thinking under pressure. A well-maintained body and mind are essential tools for approaching problems with clarity rather than chaos. Collaboration amplifies problem-solving ability. Seeking input from others provides diverse perspectives, uncovers blind spots, and generates solutions you might not consider alone. Effective collaboration requires active listening, open-mindedness, and mutual respect. By incorporating the expertise, experience, and creativity of others, you can tackle complex challenges more efficiently and reduce the stress that comes from facing problems in isolation. Resilience is strengthened through repeated practice of problem solving. Each challenge you address successfully reinforces your confidence and ability to navigate future stress. Even when solutions are imperfect, the experience of facing difficulties, analyzing them, and taking action builds emotional strength and adaptability. Over time, you learn to approach stress proactively rather than reactively, transforming potential anxiety into purposeful action. Planning ahead enhances your capacity to handle problems efficiently. Anticipating potential obstacles, considering contingencies, and preparing strategies in advance reduce the intensity of stress when unexpected situations arise. Preventive thinking creates a sense of control and equips you to act decisively, minimizing disruption and increasing confidence. The practice of foresight turns uncertainty into manageable possibilities. Effective problem-solving also requires emotional awareness. Recognize your reactions, triggers, and thought patterns during stressful situations. Understanding how emotions influence judgment allows you to manage impulses, remain calm, and make rational decisions. Emotional intelligence combined with structured problem-solving ensures that responses are deliberate rather than reactive, producing better outcomes and maintaining personal well-being. Developing a habit of structured problem-solving transforms how stress is experienced. You move from feeling overwhelmed and reactive to feeling capable and proactive. Problems become opportunities to learn, grow, and strengthen emotional resilience. Each challenge approached with a clear plan reinforces your belief in your abilities, encourages creative thinking, and enhances adaptability. Stress becomes a signal for action rather than a source of fear. To strengthen problem-solving skills immediately, start by identifying a current challenge and writing down the specific problem clearly. Break it into smaller parts, gather information, brainstorm at least 3 potential solutions, evaluate their feasibility, and select one to implement. Take action with focus, monitor progress, and adjust as needed. Reflect afterward on lessons learned and note improvements for future situations. Repeating this process consistently builds competence, confidence, and emotional stability. By practicing these strategies, you train your mind to approach difficulties systematically, reduce the impact of stress, and create actionable solutions. Strengthened problem-solving skills enhance emotional intelligence, resilience, and clarity. You will notice a shift in how you respond to challenges, calm, focused, and capable, equipped to turn stressful circumstances into opportunities for growth, learning, and effective action. Chapter 20. Sustain lifelong learning to expand awareness, adaptability, and emotional intelligence. The most transformative choice you can make for yourself is to commit to lifelong learning because it expands your awareness, strengthens adaptability, and deepens emotional intelligence. Learning does not stop when formal education ends. It is a continuous process that shapes how you perceive the world, respond to challenges, and interact with others. Every day presents opportunities to acquire new knowledge, refine skills, and expand perspectives, and embracing these opportunities ensures that you remain flexible, resilient, and emotionally capable in an ever-changing environment. Lifelong learning is not just about accumulating facts. It is about cultivating curiosity, self-discipline, and insight that enhance every aspect of your life. Begin by recognizing that learning is a mindset rather than a task. It requires openness, humility, and the willingness to admit that you do not know everything. This attitude fosters curiosity and creates a hunger for growth. When you approach life with a mindset that seeks understanding rather than certainty, every experience becomes a chance to learn. Failures, mistakes, and setbacks are transformed into lessons, providing clarity and shaping better decisions in the future. Lifelong learners understand that every situation contains knowledge waiting to be uncovered. Consistently seek knowledge from diverse sources. Books, articles, podcasts, seminars, and conversations with others all offer perspectives that can expand your awareness. Avoid limiting yourself to familiar ideas. Expose yourself to viewpoints, cultures, and disciplines outside your comfort zone. Expanding the breadth of your understanding develops mental flexibility, which is essential for adapting to new challenges and navigating complex situations. The more perspectives you encounter, the more nuanced and empathetic your thinking becomes. Practical application is essential for deep learning. Information alone is insufficient. Insights must be integrated into daily life through action. Experiment with new techniques, strategies, and habits to see what works best for you. Reflect on outcomes and adjust accordingly. This active engagement transforms knowledge into wisdom, reinforcing learning while building confidence and competence. By applying lessons immediately, you create a feedback loop that accelerates growth and strengthens emotional intelligence. Lifelong learning also enhances adaptability. The world is constantly evolving, and those who resist change risk stagnation. By continuously acquiring knowledge and skills, you equip yourself to respond effectively to unforeseen circumstances. Adaptable individuals approach challenges with curiosity and creativity rather than fear, using learning as a tool to navigate uncertainty. Each new skill or perspective adds to your ability to pivot, innovate, and thrive in changing environments. Emotional intelligence grows through reflection and observation. As you learn about yourself and others, you develop empathy, self-awareness, and the ability to manage your emotions. Lifelong learning encourages mindful examination of behaviors, patterns, and emotional responses, providing opportunities for improvement. Understanding the human experience more deeply enhances relationships, communication, and collaboration. Each lesson learned about yourself or others strengthens the foundation for emotional resilience and social connection. Cultivate habits that support continuous learning. Dedicate time each day to reading, reflecting, practicing new skills, or exploring unfamiliar topics. Keep a journal to record insights, track progress, and document lessons learned. Setting aside intentional time for growth reinforces discipline and ensures that learning becomes an integral part of your life rather than an occasional activity. Regular practice nurtures curiosity and transforms learning into a lifelong habit. Engage with mentors, coaches, or peers who challenge and inspire you. Learning from those with experience or alternative perspectives accelerates understanding and provides practical guidance. Constructive feedback helps identify blind spots and encourages refinement of skills and behaviors. Surrounding yourself with individuals committed to growth creates an environment that nurtures learning and holds you accountable to your own development. Interaction with others deepens awareness and enhances emotional intelligence through observation, dialogue, and collaboration. Reflective practice enhances the impact of learning. After acquiring new information or skills, take time to consider how they align with your goals, values, and existing knowledge. Analyze successes and failures to identify patterns and principles. Reflection transforms isolated knowledge into integrated wisdom that informs future actions. Lifelong learners view every experience as an opportunity for reflection, ensuring that each lesson becomes a permanent part of their personal and professional growth. Embrace challenges as opportunities for learning rather than threats. Difficult situations, unexpected setbacks, and complex problems all contain valuable insights. Approaching challenges with curiosity rather than fear allows you to extract lessons that strengthen adaptability and resilience. Each challenge faced becomes a test of skills, judgment, and emotional management, turning obstacles into stepping stones for growth. A mindset that values learning in adversity develops strength, confidence, and clarity. Commitment to growth requires patience and persistence. Lifelong learning is not a linear path and may involve periods of slow progress or frustration. Maintaining dedication through these phases reinforces discipline and resilience. Progress is measured not only in achievements, but in increased understanding, improved decision-making, and enhanced emotional balance. Over time, consistent effort compounds, resulting in profound personal transformation. Seek to integrate learning into everyday life. Observe situations with curiosity, ask questions, and analyze outcomes. Approach conversations, conflicts, and routine tasks as opportunities to gain insight into human behavior, problem-solving, and emotional dynamics. The ability to extract lessons from daily experiences ensures continuous development without requiring extraordinary circumstances. Learning becomes embedded in the way you perceive, process, and respond to the world around you. Balance structured learning with exploration. Formal education, skill building, and goal-oriented study provide direction, while open-ended exploration stimulates creativity and insight. Experimenting with new hobbies, engaging in unfamiliar activities, or exploring intellectual curiosities fosters innovation and broadens understanding. Both structured and exploratory learning contribute to adaptability and emotional intelligence by developing problem-solving skills, empathy, and self-awareness. Develop self-discipline to sustain lifelong learning. Motivation alone is insufficient. Consistency ensures that learning becomes a lasting habit. Create routines, set achievable learning goals, and monitor progress. Discipline provides the framework for growth, allowing curiosity to flourish while ensuring that learning produces tangible results. Self-regulation strengthens confidence, emotional stability, and the ability to persist through challenges. Maintain openness to feedback and correction. Lifelong learning requires humility, the recognition that knowledge is never complete and improvement is always possible. Embracing constructive criticism fosters growth, strengthens relationships, and sharpens judgment. Individuals who remain teachable enhance both their awareness and emotional intelligence because they are willing to examine assumptions, adjust behavior, and expand understanding. Celebrate progress to reinforce commitment. Acknowledge milestones, improvements, and new skills acquired along your learning journey. Positive reinforcement strengthens motivation, encourages persistence, and solidifies the habit of continuous growth. Recognizing achievement cultivates self-confidence and enhances emotional well-being, which in turn supports further learning and adaptability. Sustaining lifelong learning transforms how you experience the world. You approach challenges with curiosity, respond to change with confidence, and interact with others with empathy and insight. Knowledge becomes practical wisdom, emotional intelligence deepens, and adaptability becomes second nature. Each lesson learned enhances your capacity to make informed decisions, build meaningful connections, and navigate life with resilience. To implement immediately, identify one area where you want to grow and commit to a small but consistent learning habit. Read a chapter of a book, engage in a focused practice, or explore a new topic daily. Reflect on your progress, apply insights to real-life situations, and seek feedback from others. Expand gradually by exploring diverse subjects and challenging assumptions. Over time, these practices create a life rich with knowledge, understanding, and emotional mastery. By embracing lifelong learning, you ensure that your mind remains active, your emotions balanced, and your perspective expansive. Growth becomes a constant, and adaptability becomes instinctive. Every experience becomes an opportunity for insight, every challenge a lesson, and every interaction a chance to deepen understanding. Commit to learning every day, and you will cultivate awareness, resilience, and emotional intelligence that guide every aspect of your life toward greater fulfillment and mastery.